everybody.
And welcome back to the channel, all you lovely kings, queens, and in-betweens.
I'm at a weird angle. Oh, no. That's me in the background.
You seem to do that every time.
Yeah.
You always forget because you're that kind of guy. But that's okay. I still love you. So we are back with another stream. We're going to change things up a little bit today. We're not doing anything with a TCG. We're not even playing a video game. We're talking about books. Lots and lots of books.
Yes.
My favorite thing in the world. They're my babies. So the holidays were not too long ago and all the good sales happened. And your girl is a bit of a book dragon. So naturally, I treated myself. I simply could not help myself and had to do the good sales and buy the nice things. And then because everyone knows I love books, I got even more books for the holidays. So now I'm sitting on roughly 50 plus books that need to be read. And I don't know how many I'll get to this year, but I have high hopes. So we're going to spend some time talking about our haul for the holidays because Jeremy 2 and Lakota 2 got books, and some of our favorite things in literature, things we like, things we don't like, and everything we're hoping to read and enjoy this year and what we like. So, Jeremy, you and I go to the bookstore in the sky. What section do you run for? What are your favorite genres?
Fantasy. Sci-fi fantasy section is typically where I go.
It's a good section.
Or the graphic novel section. I think manga has its own section now in most bookstores, but it used to be just graphic novel section.
Yeah. I think now they separate the manga, which I feel like they also lump manhwa. I might be like the Chinese and Korean versions get lumped in with manga, which is the Japanese version, and then graphics and comics from our country are their own section. And then sometimes if there is a graphic novel version of some other novel that is also the quote traditional written format, they'll have that in that section too. I feel is what we see most.
Yeah.
And I too usually go directly for the sci-fi fantasy. And everyone who knows me knows that those are my favorite genres, and I am not a fan of things like horror and mystery, and Jeremy, of course, likes horror, and so does Lakota. I have a question, though. When you're going to the store and you're going to pick out a book, is it something you've heard is good? Is it something you had in mind already? How do you decide which book to buy, or do you just kind of like go with no plan whatsoever and you pick something up?
When I used to actually buy books from the bookstore, which is not something I do often anymore, but I would just read the back, and if I thought it was interesting, or I had some set series that I was reading, and those would be the ones that I would pick up. Just like I'd go back, and if I saw anything that was interesting, and I read the back, and I was like, oh, hey, that description tickles my fancy. So I will pick that up. I usually didn't look at a lot of reviews ahead of time because, I mean, it was a while ago back when I was still doing stuff like that. That would have been back in like high school, I guess. So 2004, 2005, 2006 would have been when I was doing that. So the internet was, not what it is today.
That's true.
There wasn't booktubers.
That's also true. I think when I was younger, I was the same way. It was either like what my friends were reading and talking about, what I was forced to buy for school, or if I was continuing a series or saw something interesting in the bookstore. But as I've gotten older, I think I read a lot more lists of like suggestions, or I'll look at other people's suggestions and then be like, I could try that. But the interesting thing about that is if I see a list and it'll be like top 10 fantasy books you should binge now or whatever, and there's a series or a book on it I don't like, I'll discredit their entire list. I'm like, I can't trust your judgment now because you like that book, and that book, as far as I'm concerned, is just not a good book. And then, which is kind of maybe not the best policy to have, but I
mean, but that's how you are with the vast majority of things. So
that's true.
It's very on brand.
I mean, yeah. And then I feel like I do this only with graphic novels and manga, and maybe I shouldn't. You know that phrase where it's like, hey, don't judge a book by its cover?
Yes.
I feel like it's impossible not to judge a manga or a graphic novel by its cover. It's like when I go into it, I'm like, well, do I like this art style? Yes, no, it's okay. And if I don't like it, then I'm like, I don't want to read you, even if you look interesting, because I don't want to look at that for like 200 pages.
Yeah. I mean, art style is big with stuff like that, with manga specifically, because you're going to be looking at that artwork for an extended period of time. So you want to make sure that it's something that you're going to enjoy looking at.
It's also what
even
you're
if the
paying
story's
for.
good, I feel like it's going to be very hard for you to really get into the story if you're not enjoying the artist's rendition of the story.
The visual accompaniment. And I feel like that's not always necessarily a good thing, but you are basically paying for the art, because when you think about how much text is in your average manga, there's really not much. It's probably the equivalent of like a high-end children's book, like the end of when children's books still have pictures.
Yeah.
And you're basically paying for the amount of time that the artist put into creating the panels as opposed to the story bits, which I think is interesting. And manga is really expensive now.
Yeah. It's very hard to have an actual physical manga collection. It's just ridiculously expensive.
It's a little easier if you buy omnibuses. Like I noticed they make the price of your average omnibus like the equivalent of like a manga and a half or one of the more expensive manga.
Then you have to wait for
them to
the
come
whole
out.
series to be done.
True.
Or chunks of the series at the very least.
But the interesting thing is a lot of them come out like way after publication. For example, one of the manga on my list that I've picked up recently is called River by Shinohara. Don't quote me on that. But it came out in the 90s, like when I was a kid. And it recently started reprinting everything in omnibus format. And essentially it's this teenager named Yuri who gets to travel back in time because this evil queen wants to sacrifice her to her god so that she can cast the spell that will allow her son, who's like sixth in line or something like that, to become the ruler of the ancient Hittite Empire. And it's about her attempt to escape that unfortunate sounding fate and then get back home. So this is something that came out like over a decade after it was originally printed. Like the series has been done for a long time and they're just making a callback to it, which I find interesting. And then part of the reason why I picked this up specifically is not only because it sounded interesting to me, but I think it's interesting to watch how storytelling changes over the course of time. Because I feel like the stories we grew up with aren't things that are popular now, and the quote formula and things that you would see in literature now isn't necessarily the same as it is back then.
What was the name of it again?
Red River. Very easy to remember. Like that it's short, not a Fallout name at all. Fallout Boy name, excuse me.
This was a light novel or a...
It's a manga.
Okay.
And the thing that I really notice is, for example, in YA literature in modern day, you have to have characters that fit this very specific age bracket and have these certain traits where, you know, they don't really have outside interaction with like adult influencing their ability to carry out the plot on their own. And like back in the 80s and, you know, around the time we were both born, you could have a YA character who was like 30 or 40, but now everything has to be readily relatable to the target audience. So figure anyone from roughly 14 to 18, maybe a little older if you're not counting emerging adult literature. And I find that very interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I personally don't think it really matters if your character is 30 or 40, as long as they're not inhuman and exhibit traits of an average human being. Like, someone will find something relatable in that.
Yeah, there's been a trend recently of anime that's been, featuring characters that are in their 30s, even sometimes including it in the title. But
which makes us happy.
I feel like prior to that, most of your protagonists that you were watching in most anime, and then also reading about in a lot of manga, were significantly younger than that. And in YA literature, it's the same thing, where you're normally following, teenagers for the most part. In the case of like Orson Scott Card books, a lot of their main characters are like really young. They're like 12 or 13.
Which is something I've always struggled with. Like, I have no issue with reading things or consuming any sort of media with a younger protagonist. And by younger, I mean like teenager and younger. What I have an issue with is me being forced to believe that they can accomplish the massive feats that they accomplish, especially in things like Orson Scott Card books, where he's like, oh, they're super intelligent. And I'm like, wait. So this kid with no military training is supposed to be smarter than all these people with tons of military training, where all they do is military related stuff. And this guy grew up in like the backwaters of China and he's a child. Like, the suspension of belief, I think, is like a little excessive at this point.
I mean, they try to explain it away with like, selective breeding and things like that, but it doesn't always necessarily make it make sense.
No. But at the same time, that's part of the reason why, like, I like fantasy, because I like when, things don't necessarily have a natural explanation. And I think part of the problem, or at least part of the reason why we find these things are exacerbated, is because we like fantasy, where it's like, well, a magician did it, or it just is because fantasy. And it's just, that's it. We just have to deal with it. But it is strange, and it does make my head hurt a lot.
I tried to pull up a picture of Ender's Game, and it was a ginormous picture.
You probably saw it on the screen momentarily, and then Jeremy was like, on second thought, maybe we won't do that. Well, Jeremy is putzing. I'm going to start our first snack. I forgot to mention, we have snacks and beverages because, we're streaming and sometimes we get hungry and thirsty, and why should we deny ourselves, really? So I have this little jasmine lychee oolong tea. Lychee? I don't actually know how it's pronounced, but we're going to give this a shot as we spill the tea about all the books we got. Look what I did there, Jeremy. I'm so smart. I have shot glasses.
That's what I was trying to show.
The movie was not a good adaptation. Full disclosure.
It was not. So we have lychee tea that we were starting out with.
Yes. And then we're going to start talking about books in a more specific sense.
Start talking about books now with this thing. I have a couple of books that I am supposed to read for my screenwriting class that I am doing. And one of them, let me try this. What's it called? Lychee tea?
Yes, lychee oolong tea from Little Jasmine.
Served in a Vegito shot glass.
It suddenly smells very antiseptic, like on my end of the table. I don't know if it's the tea. Hold on.
This is okay.
It's not the tea. It smells faintly sweet. It smells like a generic dried fruit. I have a Naruto one. I'm very bad at putting things on screen. It tastes somehow like a watered down cranberry with a little bit of sugar and then like a traditional tea taste thrown in.
Yeah. Only like a little bit of traditional tea taste.
Yeah, it's not bad. I actually kind of like it.
Yeah.
It's refreshing.
That's not bad. I don't know if I'd go out of my way to drink it, but it's not bad for what it is.
It makes me feel healthy because it's tea.
Mm-hmm. So this is one of the books that I'm supposed to read for my screenwriting class that I'm taking in college now. The other one I'll talk about in a second, but this is Save the Cat, the last book on screenwriting you'll ever need, which I feel like is the quintessential book on screenwriting.
It's a big promise, though.
I got this one from Amazon, and it's all screwed up in the corner.
Because that's Amazon for you.
I'm going to be returning it to Amazon so I can get a nice copy of the book. So here's visual evidence, Amazon, when I do this return that the book is screwed up. But yeah, so this is one. Unfortunately, my other one that I'm supposed to read got delayed, and that's the one that I have the assignment for. So that's great. But the other one that I am supposed to be reading is this one here, which is Aristotle's Poetics for Screenwriters by Michael Ternell. And that's the one that I have the assignment for. And that's the one that Amazon decided to delay until the 15th. So good for me. And, but yeah, so I'm excited for screenwriting stuff. It's an independent study that I'm doing, and I think it'll be cool to look at a lot of the stories that I like to tell in, you know, whether it's in D&D or through other avenues, and kind of take all that creativity of, you know, writing and whatnot and putting it towards efforts of screenwriting. And I know that there's a lot of rules for screenwriting. Me and Elaine had some experience years back trying to do some screenwriting where Elaine had an assignment back when she was in college to write an episode, or was it a series?
Yeah, I took a screenwriting, like essentially 101 course because I'm an English major and these are things we do. And I had to come up with my own series and then plot out like the first episode or something, and then also separately plot out the whole first season in like one kind of standalone assignment report thing.
Yeah, so I got some familiarity from that when she was doing that, and then we were kind of trying to actually like do something with it. But then we realized it's impossible to get a screenplay turned into anything. Basically, like as hard as it is to get a book published, it is significantly harder to get a screenplay adapted anywhere.
And the formatting is also the hardest part. Like writing everything is like, it can take work if you're not used to it and you have to like plan things out and you're like, wait, there's a hole in my story. But the formatting is an art form that I have not mastered and probably never will. They have software for that. Anyone who's an aspiring screenwriter, there's software for that. It will be your best friend.
I will probably be using it this semester.
You probably will.
Do you want to take the next one?
So, as I was saying, I got many much books. I'm not going to talk about all of them because we will be here until next year. I can talk about books forever. But one of the ones that really caught my eye and I wound up purchasing for myself with some money was something called Snow Crash. It came out in May of 2000 by Neil Stephenson. And the first line, now that I'm reading again, makes me think of Big Hero 6 because it says like Hero lives in Los Angeles where franchises line the freeway as far as the eye can see. And for some reason I was like, oh, Hero was San Fran, Tokyo. That's funny. The only relief from the sea of logos is within the autonomous city-states where law-abiding citizens don't dare leave their mansions. So this guy is a pizza delivery dude, defending his pies from marauders when necessary with a matched set of samurai swords. So it's literally like that song you sing about the delivery guy to deliver you lo mein.
Yeah.
But it's with
Asian
pizza.
Man. He was into danger.
So he lives in a shared you store it box, and he spends most of his time goggled in the metaverse where his avatar is legendary. But now there are hackers and there's a drug on the streets and bad things are happening. So I explained that ending really poorly so I wouldn't read a box of text. But
it actually says metaverse.
It says he spends most of his time goggled into the metaverse where his avatar is legendary.
Actually the metaverse.
Yep. But in the club known as the Black Sun, his fellow hackers are being felled by a weird new drug called Snow Crash, hence the title, that reduces them to nothing more than a jittering cloud of bad digital karma and IRL, a vegetative state. So he winds up investigating the infopocalypse, and that's essentially the story. And I thought that was an interesting premise. It has some threads of familiarity with things we've seen before, where, you know, people are wired into this like other universe through, you know, headgear or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, some drug or something happens to the connective tissue to this universe, and they have to figure it out before everyone dies or everyone gets sick, or there's some really bad effect. I'm wondering what spin they take on it, because this was a very well received book. And I'm curious to see how they speak in general, because I feel like sometimes with these post-apocalyptic pieces of literature, the author breaks down language in a way where it seems to get to its like very basic roots, and it's a little clunky and simplistic. And I'm wondering if they're going to follow that trend I've seen, or if they're going to try something new. And again, like just what they're going to do differently from all the other stories that kind of match this basic premise. Would it be something you'd want to check out, Jeremy?
Yeah, it sounds like something interesting. I like Ready Player One, and that's about, you know,
It's pretty
virtual
similar.
world and stuff. So it gave me Ready Player One vibes when I was listening to it.
And we liked that one.
Yeah, I like Ready Player One, and I did not like Ready Player Two. Ready Player Two is such a bad book that it makes the first one worse, which is the worst thing a sequel can do.
Well,
But I'm sure we'll get a movie adaptation, because the movie did fairly well.
even though it was nothing like the book.
Yeah.
Like, didn't you turn to your sister at one point during the screening? Because we were those people who watched it with like Movie Pass in the theater. That was back when Movie Pass was still a thing.
I think so.
And you were just like, oh, this is where we just leave the book behind, because it was like, welcome to the rebellion. We were like,
yeah,
there was
yeah.
a rebellion?
I was.
When did this happen?
Lakota still references it periodically with things, but it was like, welcome to the rebellion. I'm like, oh, well, I guess we've decided to leave the book behind, because they just completely out of nowhere, and not even a thing.
I don't even remember what came before it, but we were like, this seems very out of left field.
Yeah, they changed a lot of stuff. I mean, I can see why they changed stuff to make it more friendly for a movie format, because, you know, sitting there watching someone play Joust for hours is probably not going to be the most entertaining. Or what are they going to do? Have them progress through recreating all of the old movies, which was many of the challenges.
Oh, that's true too.
But so, like, I can understand why they did it, but I don't like what they did with it. But whatever. Moving on beyond that. Let's go to one that actually is on Lakota's wish list, or not wish list, but to read list. And that is this manga, Shadow over Innsmouth, which is a H.P. Lovecraft story. And it's got pretty cool artwork.
Very detailed.
Yeah. It's very like noir kind of artwork. And this is something that Elaine got for Lakota, and he's going to be reading it. So this will be an interesting thing. I might pick it up after he's done with it.
He also has the Call of Cthulhu.
Yes.
Not on the table, but we did get him Call of Cthulhu. And I feel like Lovecraft is one of those people who has a very noir style of writing. Like, everything is set within this very specific period. No one really knows what's going on. Then they start hearing like whispers usually, and then they question their sanity, and it just has that vibe. And this artist is I don't remember his name or how it's pronounced, even if I did, is known for his horror artwork. So he began adapting all these things. And I know Lakota likes H.P. Lovecraft and likes horror, so he would probably like these two books. And the art is really like surprisingly well done. And I think that might make it also more approachable. I haven't experienced much Lovecraft, surprisingly, even as an English major. All I read was Dagon, and I don't really remember much about it, except it had the elements of people starting to question things and not really knowing what's going on. And I should
it's
probably...
all about like madness and stuff. All of his stuff seems like that.
It's just people going insane. And I probably should know more about H.P. Lovecraft as an English major, but I don't. It's not my specialty. So I'm hoping once Lakota reads it, he can educate me so I can feel like a more well-rounded English major and not one that just specializes in YA, which is technically my specialty.
My only exposure to Lovecraft is through the Eldritch games that we play, like the tabletop games where it's like Eldritch Horror and Mountains of Madness and what else? There's Eldritch There's the
Arkham
Mansion
Horror?
of Madness.
Was another one.
Arkham Horror. We're just like listing variations of the same games, but there's a lot of Cthulhu games. Oh, there's Reign of Cthulhu Pandemic.
True, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I can actually see it from where we're sitting. But
Damn it, Jeremy.
yeah, that I think it lends itself very well to that kind of stuff. I've also played a very brief Call of Cthulhu campaign for the tabletop game. A very brutal system where, you know, our first campaign, we all died.
That's usually how it goes in Lovecraft, if we're being completely honest. Everybody dies.
Yeah. It's very brutal and very unforgiving, especially in combat. Because everybody's just got guns, and you can only, like, take 2 hits, and you're dead.
I feel like that would be really hard to live. Like, do they expect you all to die? Is it like that game, like 10 Candles?
They prepare you in the beginning, like, you're probably going to die, so have a second character prepared. But, yeah, so moving beyond that, what's your next one?
So, I decided that I need, for the sake of my sanity, not that I don't love reading, but like books where I'm not just sitting there reading the same thing for like 3 or 4 months because they're so long. Like, I feel like mentally I need breaks from those really involved pieces of literature, something I can get through more quickly but also really enjoy. So I've been starting to explore novellas more and shorter length novels. And as I was going down this rabbit hole of suggestions, I came across the first book in the Singing Hills cycle, which is called The Empress of Salt and Fortune. It was the Hugo Award winner in 2021. And it's currently one of 6 books. I don't know if the series is concluded. But essentially, a young royal from the far north is sent south for a political marriage in an empire reminiscent of Imperial China. The author, I believe, is Chinese. I think her name's pronounced Inghe Vo. I could be wrong because I know NG kind of shifts depending on which part of the world you're from as a sound. Her brothers are dead. Her armies and their war mammoths long defeated and caged behind their borders. Alone and sometimes reviled, she must choose her allies carefully. Rabbit, a handmaiden sold by her parents to the palace for the lack of 5 baskets of dye, befriends the emperor's lonely new wife and gets more than she bargained for. At once feminist high fantasy and an indictment of monarchy, this evocative debut follows the rise of the Empress in Yo, who has few resources and fewer friends. She's a northern daughter in a mage-made summer exile, but she will bend history to her will and bring down her enemies piece by piece. So, again, like, I was intrigued by this because I feel like, especially when I was still in college, everything I read was by a dead white guy. I very much had the dead white guy education where everything was, you know, Shakespeare or the American Renaissance. I got some Victorian literature, which I enjoyed, but pretty much everything was just a guy about this very specific set of topics, and I really wanted to change. I would have to chase down courses where they offered me anything that didn't fit into this tiny little box. And I think now that I'm out of college, I'm still chasing that. I really want to take time to read literature from different parts of the world because I'm intrigued by how different cultures tell stories. The way people choose words depending on where they grow up differs, and you can see this in how, like, in film, like the way an Asian culture would depict a certain thing is very different than what Americans would focus on. And I've noticed this in how people choose words in their writing and the things they like to write about.
Three Body Problem is a good example of that because the original books were written by a Chinese author and then Netflix adapted it. and they changed a bunch of stuff because, you know, it's not taking place entirely in China anymore with all Chinese characters. They made them all English. And they changed a lot of plot points because it, you know, was no longer culturally a Chinese thing outside of the parts that had to take place in China because there was like communist China stuff. But that was a big example. I significantly liked the book better than the adaptation.
I feel like that's the case a lot of the time. Books are usually better, guys, except when it's not.
I also listened to the audiobooks for the light novels of Solo Leveling, which were Korean and written by somebody, you know, from Korea. And it was interesting. The word choices that they used definitely were different than what we're used to.
But like, I'm intrigued by that. Like, I like seeing how people do things differently and seeing what other people enjoy and think is like good within the context of their belief system and their culture, because that's not something I'm going to get a lot of unless I seek it out. And I like that, and I think need that change of pace, not only in like length and presumed depth. Obviously, I can't really judge a book I haven't read, but I'm assuming if a book is, you know, I'll check now. One moment, please. 128 pages. It's not going to get as much depth and development as a book that's like 1,000+ pages.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot less you can do in like an 11th of the length. And I think it'll be refreshing for me, not only because I need that cultural change and just like a different perspective, but also because I need something that isn't going to take up such a large amount of my time.
Yeah. So,
what do you got next, friend?
So I'm going to, all I have in front of me is manga, because when I'm talking about like books, it's mostly audiobooks, because I pretty much only consume novels through audiobook format. Right now I am actively passively listening to the third book in the I just forgot the name of the book. He Who Fights Monsters. Yeah. He Who Fights Monsters 3. And I like those. It's a lit RPG where he gets trapped in another world that is like a video game, but it's a real world, but it's an alternate world, and he views everything. The magic kind of manifests itself in him as like a HUD. So he has like leveling up powers and stuff like that. And it's good. It's got good characters. It's got an interesting story that's spanning the first 3 books. Like, it's a connected story. And there's like 12 or 13 of them, I think, actively out right now. And that's pretty good. I've also started Winds of Truth, but it's an undertaking. So
That's true.
We will eventually get around to Winds of Truth. But it is out, and I have listened to the prologue, and the prologue was very interesting. So, but in terms of physical stuff, I'm going to go to The Girl on the Shore by Inio Asano. Inio Asano. And I think this is a GL book?
It is not.
It is not?
I have read it.
The back seems like GL. But it's romance though, right?
It has romantic elements, sort of. You'll see.
All right. Well, the back definitely promises romance, but because the back says, when Kiyomi and Kisuke's relationship, see, I thought those were 2 girls.
No, it's a boy and a girl.
Okay. Relationship begins to take shape. It is apparent that they are both searching for something. Maybe Kisuke wants something more than a kiss from the fair Kiyomi. Maybe Kiyomi is looking for something better than Misaki, the local playboy. But what they find in each other over the course of a summer might be far greater than anything they were expecting. Their lives are going to change, and this will all transpire before high school exams.
Don't show pages.
Don't show pages?
Don't show or be very selective about the pages you show. It's not.
Is there problematic stuff?
There's problematic stuff.
It's an interesting art style.
I will say that.
But yeah, this one's interesting. I'm slightly less interested now that I found out that's not a GL story. But because I thought those were two girl characters that both had independent boyfriends, and they were upset about them, and now they're finding a relationship with each other. That's what I got out of that paragraph. But it's interesting. Oh, I just hit some of the material I can't show on YouTube. Okay.
Yep. You see?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, we got there.
It was not what I was expecting.
But yeah, so that's one of the. And unfortunately, this copy, somebody spilled something on the front here, and it made it all discolored. So, but and on the back too.
How dare they?
How dare they spill all that stuff on my book? But yeah, I'll get.
It's melted Skittles. That's what that is.
That is one of the ones I'm going to get to, and I am excited for it. Do you want to go to your next one?
We're gonna run out of things for you to talk about very quickly because I got much tabs and you have a lot less. But
that's when I just go make dinner.
That's fair. So the next one I'm going to talk about very briefly is The Last Days of Magic. It was suggested in a bunch of different lists and it just wasn't available for the longest time. Like I couldn't find it anywhere. But the basic premise of this one is like what became of magic in the world, who needed to do away with it and for what reasons. And it draws on several myths, legends, fairy tales, and biblical mysteries to tell this story. And, I'm a sucker for fantasy, so here we are. I own a copy of this. It is in my bedroom. I will eventually read this book, and maybe I'll enjoy it. We'll find out. And then...
You know a lot to say about that one.
Sometimes I just like to keep the mystery alive,
Just like to keep
until I read it, and then there's no mystery because I have to consume that and remember what happened. Otherwise, what are we doing?
You like to keep the magic alive because once you read the book, it is the last days of magic, and magic is dead.
Maybe it'll come back. We'll find out. I'll do a spoiler-free review.
So I am going to my next one.
I'll BRB. I'm going to let the child try our little jasmine tea because we have more beverages coming.
Okay, so this next manga is from the mad genius behind Chainsaw Man and Look Back. Comes a story about coping with loss. Yuta's movie-making career started with a request from his mother to record her final moments. After her death, Yuta meets a mysterious girl named Eri, who takes his life in a new direction. The two begin creating a movie together, but Eri is harboring an explosive secret. And that one is this, Goodbye Eri, which is definitely an eye-catching cover, I feel. And the fact that it's from the same guy who did Chainsaw Man. Did we watch Look Back?
We did not watch Look Back.
It seems familiar.
I believe it is the same guy who did this.
That's what it says. So I'm excited to try this one out. And the art style is interesting. Is this the one I have to be worried about flipping through?
Not really. There's like one darker section, and that's about it.
Oh, it looks interesting.
I've read it already.
It's decent, clean artwork. I have not consumed the Chainsaw Man.
Well, you consumed one episode of the Chainsaw Man. I watched one
episode of Chainsaw Man, and I wanted to watch more, but then we never ended up watching more. But and it's probably not a very Elaine show, so I'd probably end up watching it by myself, which means I won't watch it. So
I mean, we could try it, and I can just cover my eyes if I don't. But that doesn't mean I can't cover my eyes. And I also did read A Game of Thrones, which is fairly gory.
Those are words. The words can't be gory.
Words can be. I mean, it's gratuitous violence.
Do the words show blood?
They talk about blood, so yes, they are depicting blood, Jeremy. Therefore, it counts.
But yeah, I'm excited for that one. That one sits on the shelf, and the cover is the one that speaks to me the most, I feel like, out of all of them. Because it's just eye-popping.
I liked it because I got to buy a manga, and I didn't have to buy any more. It sounds really bad, but I like when there's a standalone book, and I don't have to like wait for the end of the story to happen. And also when I don't have to spend like $45 to $100 just to finish a series so I can like own it all.
Yeah.
I like that they're budget friendly options. So that's kind of what appealed to me there. I also could not, for the life of me, get a copy of Look Back. I wanted to buy that for you, but I wasn't able to because they weren't available.
Like anywhere?
I found one eventually in Barnes and Noble, but it was after like your birthday and all the holidays had happened, and I was like, I'll have to say that for another day. So
It do be like that sometimes.
Eventually we'll get around to that.
They have an
one.
anime that's coming out for it, or a movie.
Yeah, the Look Back movie I think just came out maybe within the last month. So yeah. You should know this one. My next one's Gintama. I'm starting on the Gintama train because it gets recommended left and right.
Why does it always come so big?
Because the universe wants to cut our faces off, Jeremy. And basically the premise is it's samurai versus aliens, which is probably two things you don't think you're ever going to encounter, but you do in this series, apparently. The samurai didn't stand a chance. First, the aliens invaded Japan. It's always Japan. Which is, I think, something I find very interesting about Western literature. I feel like it pretty consistently, with the exception of fantasy, although they do have elements of their home country, pretty much everything I've encountered takes place in wherever the writer is from. And I feel like that isn't necessarily the case with Eastern writers. I just said it backwards. Eastern writers are the thing I just said. Western writers are not necessarily always like that. Although they are often like that too. The aliens invaded Japan. Next, they took all the jobs. I feel like we're listening to Trump complain about the people that live below us. You know, that country that lives below us. And then they confiscated everyone's swords. That's just rude.
Oh, no.
That's not yours. So what does a hot-headed former samurai like Jintoki, Jin Sakata do to make ends meet? Take any odd job that comes his way, even if it means losing his dignity.
I had no idea that was the premise of this.
Nobody with naturally wavy hair can be that bad. Sleazy alien moneylenders, monsters on the rampage, and a ticking time bomb may all be in a day's work for Jin, but a drop in his blood sugar level means trouble for everyone. I also didn't think that this Chainsaw Man premise was actually the premise when I first heard it. I was like, that is not what I anticipated. But, I mean, it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I like a good sword fight. I think that's why I gravitate toward like samurai and ninja things, because I like
a good
the fight choreography, which I think is much harder to capture well in a manga because like you have to do the like fluidity movement lines, but in an anime it's just like fully realized, whereas in a manga it's just kind of the impression of a thing or the idea of a thing. Like obviously it's still portrayed, but not as completely as it would be in an anime. So I'm curious to see how it's handled in this one.
I've heard very good things about this one. So I'm sure you will enjoy it. And I'd like to pop in and check it out.
Okay. I think it's on Crunchyroll, so we could watch it as well.
I've watched one episode in the middle of the season or the series because somebody's like, oh, this is my favorite show. I like this episode. I'm going to show you. I was like, cool. I have no context for anything that's happening.
That's the best.
Yeah.
That's the best way to consume media.
I'm also not the biggest fan of gag anime and comedy anime in general for the most part. So just dropping me in the middle of the whatever plot is going on and then just being like, here, it's funny. Be like, not without any of the context. But so my next one that I'm going to discuss is I Want to Eat Your Pancreas.
Which actually isn't about what you'd think at first glance.
It's not about zombies or man-eating individuals.
It is not.
It is like, it gives me kind of Fault in Our Stars vibes when I read the back. But
Okay.
A bittersweet romance in this deeply moving first-person story. An introverted high school boy finds his classmate's diary and learns her biggest secret. Yamauchi Sakura is dying from a pancreatic disease, and now he is the only person outside of her family to know the truth. The last thing the boy wants is to be her friend. but Sakura's cheerful demeanor and their shared secret drawn them together in this heart-rending tale of friendship and morality. I can't read. This is why I listen to audiobooks.
So he can't count and he can't read.
Yeah.
Now you know.
So this is another romance book. Or it's a romance with but this one doesn't have like a horror sub-theme to it, right?
I don't think so.
It's just straight romance.
And it's very well received. A lot of people recommend that one. So I thought, my Jeremy can only get the best things.
Yes.
So
I must get the best romance.
And it's all in one volume. We don't have to look for the other volumes.
It's the complete manga collection. In this, I experienced the entire story from birth to when she dies of pancreatic disease. Or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what the end is. But what is your next one? I mean, I do like romance to a degree. I tend to like Yuri romance more than I like actual romance, or like not actual romance, but like traditional romance where it's like boy-girl romance, which is...
I was like, you said that in a very questionable way, sir.
Well, but they have like Yuri and Yaoi have like subcategories.
True.
But like boy-girl romance in manga is just called romance. It's not called boy-girl romance. So, but I will give it a shot.
I hope you like it.
I'm sure I will. What is your next one?
The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. This came out in May of 2020.
Did you just pronounce the J as a J in Jimenez? Maybe. Jimenez.
Don't worry, it's Simon Jiminy Cricket. Don't worry about it. In this one, the people suffer under the centuries-long rule of the Moon Throne, the royal family, this despotic emperor and his monstrous sons, the Three Terrors, hold the countryside in their choking grip. They bleed the land and oppress the citizens with the frightful powers they inherited from the god locked under their palace. That's also not polite. You don't lock gods away. That's frowned upon. Crap, what was that guy with Dream? Morpheus?
Yeah.
Oh, what? The Sandman. Yeah, there we go. I got there. What did the Sandman teach you?
Nothing. They didn't watch it. Neither did anybody else.
But that god cannot be contained forever. With the aid of June, a guard broken by his guilt-stricken past, and Kima, an outcast fighting for his future, the god escapes from her royal captivity and flees from her own children, the triplet terrors who would drag her back to her unholy prison. And so it is that she embarks with her young companions on a 5-day pilgrimage in search of freedom, and a way to end the Moon Throne forever. The journey ahead will be more dangerous than any of them could have imagined. I feel like you didn't need all of that explanation, guy. Like, I feel like I got the idea.
Yeah, probably could have cut that down a little bit, but it seems like an interesting premise.
I do like when people rebel. There's something, like, intriguing about rebellion. Like, I feel like it's usually for the same reasons of, you're making us pay too much money, you're not treating us properly, or, I've been captured and now I hate you. But how they respond to that, that's the interesting part.
You know what I have to say to that?
No.
Welcome to the rebellion. Bringing it back, Al. Yes, I think a story about a good rebellion is usually interesting. There is only one story that I can come up with off the top of my head that immediately deals with the aftermath of rebellion, and that's Mistborn.
It's true.
Which I think does a good job of that. Most of them are like, hey, we defeated the baddies. Life is gonna be great. And maybe we get an epilogue. Like, the epilogue usually all you can get. But, dealing with the ramifications of a rebellion. But it'll be interesting. Is this the first in a series or standalone?
I think it's standalone.
Oh, you like those.
I like a good story, and I get upset if it's a good story and then it just ends and I don't get anything more. But I also like getting to consume more. I feel like I'm accomplishing things. So I like when it's standalone because I feel like I've consumed extra, even if I really technically haven't consumed extra.
Yeah.
Because it's, the same amount of books, just different stories, different series. But that's my secret shame. I love and struggle with series at the same time.
This is my next one, which is also a manga. It is The Walking Cat. It's about a cat that has the amazing skill of walking. He's able to walk.
It's crazy.
He's handy capable because he has 4 hands. Some people refer to them as feet, these bottom ones, but it's actually, he's very handy capable because he has 4 hands. So he walks very effectively.
What on earth, Jeremy?
A cat's eye view of the zombie apocalypse. It's basically The Walking Dead, but from like a cat's perspective, which I think is cool. That's a cool little concept. And it's simple artwork, but it's artwork that I think will get the point across. Oh, here he's fighting a zombie.
Not a Zimbabwe.
Not a Zimbabwe. Cat, stay out of Zimbabwe. They're not doing anything to you. But yeah, so it's a cat doing cat stuff. Like, walking around not caring about stuff, which is what cats do. So I think it's interesting. The back says, "Look what the cat dragged in. Zombies roam the earth and civilization as we know it is dead. When Jin, a young man trying to survive the chaos, rescues a cat from certain death, the unlikely duo sets off on a quest to find a mysterious island where Jin's wife may be alive. Witness the zombie apocalypse through the eyes of a fearless feline whose curiosity may kill him yet." 3-volume tale collected in one complete omnibus.
The only thing I don't like about that cover is the red text. I feel like it's hard to believe, or read rather. I don't know why I said hard to believe.
But it's a zombie thing. It's gotta have red on it. This is definitely like the Walking Dead font, basically. But they know their audience, so that's good. I'm excited for that.
Did I get you too many books?
No, I'll get to them eventually.
Whoopsies. My next book is the Lambda Literary Award winner of 2020, called The Deep by River Solomon. Really easy to spell.
It's The Deep and her name's River.
Yetu holds the memories for her people, water-dwelling descendants of pregnant African slave women thrown overboard by slave owners. Yeah, that first line's not the nicest line. Who live idyllic lives in the deep. Their past, too traumatic to be remembered regularly, is forgotten by everyone save one, the historian. The demanding role has been bestowed on Yetu. Yetu remembers for everyone, and the memories, painful and wonderful, traumatic and terrible and miraculous, are destroying her. And so she flees to the surface, escaping the memories, the expectations, and the responsibilities, and discovers a world her people left behind long ago. She will learn that she never expected about her own past and about the future of her people. If they're all to survive, they'll need to reclaim the memories, reclaim their identity, and own who they really are. I feel like that last line really ruins it. Like, you really should have taken that out of the summary of your book.
What?
And Yetu will learn more than she ever expected about her own past and about the future of her people. If they are all to survive, they'll need to reclaim the memories, reclaim their identity, and own who they really are. Like, that 2 lines should have just been taken out.
Yeah.
I think it ruins kind of, like, you can make you can expect that essentially something along that line is going to happen, but we shouldn't be told that on the back cover. And like, when I was reading this, I was really drawn back to my memories of The Giver. This seems very...
That's what I was thinking the whole time.
Similar to The Giver, but underwater, and specifically with African American people, which I don't know if that'll change the story a ton or not at all. I'm interested to see if it does, because it's not clear specifically when this is taking place. Like, it could have been slave women back in Africa, or when they came over to America, or they might be talking about a different world entirely. This could be an entirely fantasy.
Interestingly, this book was inspired by a song by Daveed Diggs.
Yep.
Which is why he's on the cover. I don't know if he partially wrote it or whatever, but he wrote the song, The Deep, which this book was inspired by.
like if you go into the Amazon page, which you're not, but I'm on it right now, it says it's by River Solomon, but it also says with David Diggs and William Hudson and Jonathan Snipes on the cover.
You can see it on the. You can see the
right
cover,
there,
yeah.
which makes me think that they collaborated with her, but didn't actually do the physical writing.
Yeah, that's interesting. David Diggs, known for his work in Hamilton.
I actually have another book by this author on my list. It's called
David Diggs?
No, River Solomon. It's called An Unkindness of Ghost. It's a little earlier. It's from 2017, October. And this one is more sci-fi. Aster has little to offer folks in the way of rebuttal when they call her ogre and freak. She's used to the names. She only wishes there was more truth to them. If she were truly a monster, she'd be powerful enough to tear down the walls around her until nothing remains of her world. Aster lives in the low-deck slums of the HSS Matilda, a space vessel organized much like the antebellum South. For generations, Matilda has ferried the last of humanity to a mythical promised land. On its way, the ship's leaders have imposed harsh moral restrictions and deep indignities on dark-skinned sharecroppers like Aster. Embroiled in a grudge with a brutal overseer, Aster learns there may be a way to improve her lot if she's willing to sow the seeds of civil war. So we see this author, who is a person of color, drawing on the experiences of her people in the past and probably like racism in general, which is still very much a thing, even though a lot of people would like to say it's not a thing. And I find that interesting because it's not really something I feel like comes up a lot in the literature written by white people. Probably because white people, for the most part, there is like the backwards version, isn't really a thing you see a lot of the way you do with people of color.
No comment.
And I do like a good sci-fi.
The last time Elaine and I got into an in-depth discussion about a book written by a person of color, we got into one of the worst fights we've ever gotten into in our relationship.
I think it actually might be the worst fight of our relationship.
Yeah. It was over N.K. Jemisin,
Broken Earth
trilogy. I'd only read the first and into the second one. I don't remember if I'd finished the second one.
I think you had just finished the first.
And yeah, it did not go well, that discussion. Why is Orson Scott Card popping up again on our stream? That was weird.
Because he wants to invade.
Speaking about problematic white guys, but I think this is an interesting topic, and I like the blending of the kind of like cultural aspects with the sci-fi aspects of living on, a starship. Speaking of Orson Scott Card, there's a fair amount of that in some of his books where like the sequel trilogy to Ender's Game is I think it's called the Xenocide trilogy.
I think so.
Starts off and primarily stars a family from Portugal, right? Portugal. I'm pretty sure they're from Portugal, and they have, or Argentina. This is not making me look great, but that their entire family's on a starship, and there's some cultural things that come in there, but that's also a problematic white guy writing about those cultural aspects. So how much of it's accurate, who knows? We don't know. But for some reason, Orson Scott Card keeps popping up on the screen, and I'm not sure why.
He's trying to invade. He's like, you need to talk about me more. And we're like, we don't want to talk about you right now, or more. But he's very insistent. He's insistent.
He's very, very insistent. But either way, do you have another one you want to reveal, or do you want me to move on to my next one?
I mean, I can talk briefly about the Witcher box set that I bought.
Okay, good.
So, the show came out not too long ago with our boy who played the Superman. I just completely blanked on his name. I knew it earlier. I was going to talk about it, and now I forgot it, and I can't. But it's the guy who plays the Superman.
Henry Cavill.
Thank you. It's kind of like geeky guy playing Geralt of Rivia. Geralt.
Toss a coin to your Witcher. Oh, Valley of Plenty.
I want to see if that song is in the book. I feel like it's not.
From my understanding, it was original to the show.
But I believe that early on during the show, Cavill played a large role in making sure that the series was very similar to the books. So I'm not expecting to see too many changes, but I'm interested to see how those how many changes were made later on when he started to not want to be a part of the show anymore because it wasn't being true to the original material. I think the only issue I might have with this is it might be a little gory because there were some pretty not pleasant scenes in the show where I had to close my eyes and Jeremy had to warn me about when I could, open my eyes again.
I personally don't think you will like the writing.
But we'll find out.
I don't think it's written in a way that you will enjoy. But
like old epic? Are we talking?
No, it's just you have a very specific prose that you are willing to read. I don't think this will fall into that category. But from my brief snippets, I've never read the books. I did watch the first 3 seasons of the show.
Are there 3 out now, or are they
two?
filming the third with?
How many did he do? Did Cavill do 3?
I know he did 2 seasons. I know I watched the first one with you. I didn't watch the second.
He definitely did 3 because you had the first one, and that was like the coming together kind of thing, and then you had the story that took place with the Witchers in their like home base place, and then there was another one after that where they were dealing with the bad guys.
And
so there was definitely a 3rd season in there somewhere, and then the 4th season is going to be the one with the new guy,
Liam.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
the less famous of the Hemsworths.
I mean, he was in the Hunger Games. That was.
Yeah,
but he wasn't a very in the
Thor.
grand scheme of things. He wasn't that important a character when you're overshadowed by Jennifer Lawrence and that other guy who played PETA.
Yeah, it's like being Daniel Baldwin. Like, I mean, you're Daniel Baldwin, but you're not Alec Baldwin. This one, The Witches, the complete collection. She got a lot of space between her eyes. She's a witch. That's how you can tell. The space between the eyes.
I don't know if that one's problematic, so just be...
An award-winning collection of interwoven tales of witchcraft on... this is long. On a visit to a city in the far west of Asia, a British girl... Yes, Britain is very far west of Asia, so we're off to a factual start. British girl named Nicola falls in love. The object of her affection is Mimmer, a man who works at the city's bazaar. Yet, despite her attempts, he turns her down. Upon returning home to England, the ache of her unrequited love festers. After years spent obtaining wealth, fame, and the secret of the world, Nicola returns to the bazaar to exact her deadly revenge upon Mimar and those he holds dearest. This story is one of many in this haunting collection that features tales of witches and the dark magic set around the globe and in outer space. And
don't worry about it.
And there's some awards that it won. Daisuke Igarashi is the story and art guy dude. There's some gruesome stuff in here.
Yeah, it's
there's some uggos.
That's not very nice, Jeremy.
Listen, they like, if I showed these uggos, you'd be like, yes, uggo.
Yeah, but it's not polite. You're being impolite.
But they're evil.
So I guess it's okay to be polite if they're evil?
Yeah.
No respect for the evils?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. There might be some problematic stuff in there, so I'm not going to show too much of it, but you can see like this, it's very like strong line work, a lot of shading.
A lot of detail.
Yeah. And it's interesting. The character designs are interesting. It's a lot of church stuff.
Church stuff.
Church.
It's not as much as the Pope with his church.
There might be a Pope in here. We don't know.
There could be a Pope. You have to let me know if there's a Pope and if he's as bad as the Pope in The Rising of the Shield Hero.
See, this is one of the uggos. Yes, uggo. She turning people into rats. But yeah, okay. So I'm excited for that. That's horror of unrequited romance.
You don't really read much horror. You like watch horror.
I used to read horror. I used to read a lot of Stephen King, but it's been a while since I've really consumed much. I also don't even really watch a lot of horror anime, if you really think about it.
No, because you usually watch anime with me, and I won't watch that. So I do dictate a lot of what we consume.
I only have one left here, but I can go get it. There's another one I could go get, but I only have one left. So I'm just going to do this one, and then I'm going to go get the other one while you describe your next one.
Okay.
This is another.
It's very well rated anime as well.
Yeah. I feel like this. What was I saying when I saw the anime?
You weren't sure if it was the same thing?
Yeah, because it like looked very different, and like, she didn't have an eye patch. How do you not have no eye patch?
Maybe she didn't get the eye patch yet.
Is this the complete one?
I think it's just that one book.
This is not.
It's gonna get me busy for like 2 days. Don't worry about it.
It's very like dark line work. Nicely drawn characters. The character designs are nice.
That's important in a manga. You gotta have the pretty characters.
So I'm excited for that one. The back says, in the spring of 1998, she got a long name, Sakakibara. Koichi Sakakibara transfers into third year class 3 at Yamayama North Middle School. But little does he know, his new class has a horrible secret. When he takes his seat in class for the first day of school, Koichi is unsettled by his fearful classmates. Despite the atmosphere and the warnings from his fellow students, Koichi is drawn to the beautiful, distant Mei Misaki, another classmate. But the closer he tries to get to her, the more mysterious she and their class become. And when a fellow student dies a disturbing death, the first of a long chain of deaths, Koichi seeks to learn the truth behind the curse of third year class 3. But can he get answers before the curse kills him? No, he can't. But we'll find out.
And then you can compare that to the show.
Yes, I can compare it to the Lost in Adaptation version of it. So I'm going to go grab another book while you talk about your next thing.
Maybe you can take some of your books and put them back on the shelf. And then we can have a snack break. Maybe.
Sure.
We'll see. So my next book is something called The Raven Tower by Anne Leckie. For centuries, the kingdom of Iridan has been protected by the god known as the Raven. Haha, surprise, surprise. He watches over his territory from atop a tower in the powerful port of Vastai. Again, surprising. His will is enacted through the Raven's lease, a human ruler chosen by the god himself. His magic is sustained by the blood sacrifice that every lease must offer. And under the Raven's watch, the city flourishes. But the Raven's tower holds a secret. Its foundations conceal a dark history that has been waiting to reveal itself and to set in motion a chain of events that could destroy Iridan forever. So this isn't written grammatically correct. I said that really poorly. I seem stupid now, but that's okay. On Amazon site, but that's okay. This was shortlisted for the 2020 World Fantasy Award, which is, I think, how I came to know of its existence. It is something that I'm interested in because I like dark fantasy, but I feel like I might be disappointed by the big reveal at the end because I feel like a lot of dark fantasy is kind of Jeremy dropped some things predictable. You've got this, Jeremy. You're a strong, powerful man. So I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised, and I'm also interested in their writing style, so we'll see what happens there. The next one is one of my Christmas presents. It's called The Starless Crown. It's part of the Moonfall series. It seems to be a trilogy. I'm not sure if it's completed, so maybe it won't say a trilogy. But in this one, again, The Starless Crown, An alliance embarks on a dangerous journey to uncover the secrets of the distant past and save their world in this captivating, deeply visionary New York Times bestselling adventure from thriller master James Rowlands. Not sure I'm going to like the thriller parts, but I'm hoping everything else keeps me intrigued and interested in this series. It says, a gifted student foretells an apocalypse. Her reward is a sentence of death. That is not ideal. Fleeing into the unknown, she is drawn into a team of outcasts, a broken soldier, a drunken prince, and imprisoned thief. On the run, hunted by enemies old and new, they must learn to trust each other in order to survive in a world evolved in strange, beautiful, and deadly ways, and uncover ancient secrets that hold the key to their salvation. But with each passing moment, doom draws closer. Now that I'm reading this again, there's something about it that reminds me of Six of Crows, because it's kind of like this team of random people. Well, not completely random, but people assembled to accomplish a thing, and they're like on the run from a group of bad guys without technically being wanted. Don't worry about it. I read it a while ago. Not the best comparison. Don't worry about it. But I like these stories where like these unlikely people are drawn together to accomplish. That's not the book.
Oh.
It's called The Starless Crown. By James.
Same guy though, isn't it?
Same guy.
He likes Crown.
To accomplish a shared goal. I think my only concern with it is something I see in some of these stories where like unlikely heroes or an unlikely group comes together. Is like sometimes I feel like their connection is a little too forced. So I'm hoping it's a more natural coming together. And with 576 pages, I feel like we have time to not rush to their coming together. Waiting for Jeremy to get it right this time. There it is. He got it right this time, guys. He did it. He did it. You did it, Jeremy. But that's really my only concern. Oh, and apparently there's a Starless Crown. So that's where the title comes from. It's the last line that I missed. I don't know why it's italicized and bold and all caps. So I shouldn't have missed it, but I did. It says, who will claim the Starless Crown? But I kind of feel like if you're going to describe your book, you should have mentioned that up front and not at the end of your book description after explaining some things that seem entirely unrelated. But either way, it seems interesting. So where are we going with you, Jeremy?
I went to grab another thing that I've been meaning to read that I got 2 years ago.
I think it's 2 years ago now.
Oh my God, this is a chonker.
Don't worry about it.
But I have the volume 1 compendium of Witchblade.
With a really cool cover.
Yeah, it is a cool cover. Witchblade is fairly well known. Oh, there's like stuff on the side. I didn't even notice that. But it's a fairly well known series. Man, that actually bothers me. There's stuff on the side. Oh well.
Isn't it in plastic? It's out of the plastic
no, it's
now.
out of the plastic. This is stuff that was inside the plastic that I didn't know about. So I'll have to see if I can get it off. But it seems like it's coming off. Oh, we got some of it off. Okay, cool. I can probably fix it then from there. But it's Witchblade is very well known for its like suggestive, sexy art. It's kind of what it is. I mean, she basically turns into a thing that's like half naked to fight bad guys, and it's in color. Like, look at that rich color.
Make sure it's YouTube appropriate.
It's fine. I don't think it's got nudity.
I don't know. I've not experienced the Witchblade.
But it does have like really nice color work. The art is really nice. Like,
that would make a good figure, that pose right there.
yeah. But I'm excited to get into this. And that was that one that we just had right there. Like, this was Witchblade number 50 is the last book in it. So that's a lot. And they have a part in the back where they show the original covers.
That's cool.
So there's 50 issues in this.
It's a comic then.
Seems like a lot. What?
It's a comic?
Yeah, it's a comic.
Okay.
So
I'm with it.
I'm excited for that.
Don't worry about it. I'm totally with it.
It is a chonker. It's kind of hard to hold up. But
That's the one downside to getting an omnibus or a collection of any sort is they do get heavy and unwieldy and kind of unpleasant until you get like to the exact middle of the book when it's like
when
okay to
it
hold.
sits there nicely once
Sits
you
there
get to
nicely on the
that
shelf.
middle point.
You're putting it on the screen even though you held it up.
I do what I want.
Fair enough. I mean, it does look good. I didn't realize there was other stuff on the back. Like when I was looking at you hold it up, I really only noticed the girl in the color.
This is not the exact cover.
Oh, that explains why I didn't notice those other elements because it's not the same color.
That's another cover for the same book. I can't. It's so big I can't even like. Yeah.
You're hiding behind it.
Same pose, but there's this stuff on the back here. I never read the back. While investigating a series of murders in New York City, police detective Sarah Penzini,
Penzini?
this isn't even a foreign name, is drawn to a mysterious tournament at the abandoned Rialto Theater, where criminals are vying to possess a powerful weapon. On that fateful night, Penzini's life is forever changed when she becomes the latest in a line of female bearers of the ancient and mythical artifact of the Witchblade. Go back to the beginning and discover Sarah's first encounters with the Witchblade Gauntlet. Kenneth Irons, Jackie Estacado, and Ian Nottingham. The Witchblade Compendium, Volume 1. It's just advertisement stuff. But yeah, so that's the general
Just
thing.
advertisement stuff.
It's a gauntlet. It's on her hand.
So, I think it's time for a beverage. You've probably seen these guys before if you've watched our channel. We've done a lot of the Ocean Bomb, Sailor Moon taste tests. This one is for a pear-flavored beverage. And we are going to have a little sippy sip. Woo, woo. The struggle is real. This has a lot more sugar than we're used to, so we're probably going to get a little zany, but it's going to be okay. It is very hard to pour. Be careful. Or just lick the top.
It's okay.
Why is it only okay?
Not great. Tasting medicine. Definitely has a
Bitter medicine.
a medicinal flavor to it.
It tastes more like cherry than pear. It does smell like more floral than cherry though, which is kind of interesting. I don't think we'll buy that again.
No, I mean, I kind of just want. At this point, I'm just trying to get the collection.
At some point we will show, oops, sorry, I bumped the thing, our collection. We're missing some. So we're missing, oh, they don't have the dark red one in that picture, but there's a dark red one.
What's the dark red one? The dark red one is
No.
Mars. We have that one.
No, there's like an actual dark red one, not that peachy color. I've never seen the purple one. I've never seen the brown can.
I don't think there shouldn't be another red one.
So, yeah, but we're missing a few. We're almost there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we're missing the bottom three, right? Oh no, we have Uranus.
We're missing the bottom, middle, and the bottom right.
Yeah, those are the only
And
ones.
I think there's another one.
Oh,
we're
and maybe
missing.
that
the
green one.
black-haired, what's it called? Sailor.
The black-haired one is the bottom middle. She normally has black hair.
I'm
That's Saturn.
pretty sure there's another one. But anyway, we're missing some, but eventually we'll get there,
Saturn, and then the other one's the one with the green hair is Pluto. And
which we
then-
have.
No, Pluto, the bottom right
Oh,
is Pluto.
that's what I meant. She's not a planet
The-
anymore.
The one next to Sailor Moon, we have, right? No, we don't have that one. No, we do have that one.
Yeah.
We're missing Jupiter. Oh, we don't have Jupiter?
No.
Wait, no, we do have Jupiter. How many do we have? 1, 2,
3,
Three,
4, 5,
four,
6,
five,
7,
six,
and now we'll have 8 with that
8.
one.
and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we are just missing Saturn and Pluto.
I'm pretty sure there's another one, but we're gonna ignore it.
There's not another planet. What other planet would it be?
Red Ocean Bomb.
It's the red one is Mars.
Anyway, we'll agree to disagree. It's fine. It's fine. Now we're going to talk about the Kingdom of Courts. Basically, there's an orphan girl named Blue, which is, a great name. Has always dreamed of joining the ranks of the noble angels, servants of the floating palace who protect the court's kingdom against demons. Yet Blue is not like the other children at the orphanage, where their fledgling angel wings are downy white. Hers are pitch black, giving rise to whispers that she is cursed. One day, the orphanage comes under attack by a host of demons. Seems like a great place to attack an orphanage.
What's the name of the book?
A Kingdom of Courts. It's a manga, volume 1.
Kingdom of Quartz? Quartz, like the rock?
Yep.
Wow.
Angels swoop down from the palace to drive the demons back, but Blue watches in horror as they are cut down one after another. Just when all seems lost, Blue feels a dark power welling up inside of her. It may be enough to avenge her friends, but will the cost prove too great? So I feel like the entire book, just based off of this description, is going to be her in this orphanage, her wanting this thing, like literally exactly what it describes, and then it's just going to end after she does something with these powers they're alluding to. I think this is going to be a setup novel. But what drew me to this novel was the cover. I really like the cover art. Because, with manga, you judge things by the cover. So that's why. I have a thing for angels and other winged creatures as well, so...
There is an image that comes up when you search for this that looks really cool.
Really?
But I don't know how spoilery it is, so...
Well, don't ruin it for me, man.
Oh, wait, they have a page that has context to the image. It has bubbles.
Has booblés?
I'm not going to read it. No, bubbles. Like speech bubbles.
Oh.
So, yeah, this looks cool. I think the cover design is nice. This one is a better cover than the second one.
Oh.
And
spoilers for the second cover.
The third one looks cool. The third one looks like the character on the cover is like my kind of archetype.
Oh, Crazy Girl?
Yeah.
He has a thing for crazy girls, in case the Harley figures didn't clue you in.
The second cover is a dude, and
that's where they
fourth cover is an archer.
I do like archers.
So do you have the volume?
I only have this one. This one right here. That's all I got.
Okay.
As a Christmas present.
You have volume 1?
Yep. Okay. Just the first one. And then after reading it, I'll know if it's worth continuing.
Yes.
But I do feel like it's literally going to be just the description I just read you guys. And then it's just going to end. And I'll be like, oh, well, that could have been more exciting.
That could have had more happen.
It could. I feel like when you really think about what happens in a manga, I'm just going to hold up one that I'm going to talk about next, I guess. I feel like it has so many outs because when you think about it in comparison to, quote, traditional literature, and I mean just the ones that are like words on a page, no pictures, they never have to describe how things look or describe what people are doing. They just have to do the talking and the pictures. But even though these tend to be shorter and they have that benefit of really just having to do art and dialogue, they don't accomplish on average as much as you would think during a novel. Despite that, when you really sit down and you're like, well, what happened in this book? You can't say more than a few sentences.
If
on average, I feel.
So the average Boruto manga that comes out now on a monthly basis is 40 pages long. And
that's a chapter.
That's a chapter.
Right.
So a chapter is 40 pages. In that, we might get a brief conversation that lasts a few pages between a couple of characters. Then we may get another brief conversation between a couple of other characters, and we may get some of a fight. So not usually a whole fight, but sometimes it'll be a whole fight.
There's no more talk no jutsu?
No, I mean, there is. Well, Naruto currently can't. Well, it doesn't matter. But
okay.
Boruto's not as good at talk no jutsu as Naruto was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's better at punch no jutsu.
Oh.
But
Okay.
it definitely does kind of feel that way. Like if you're gonna go page count, I mean, obviously there's a lot of pictures,
Yeah.
so you're not gonna get
They've got
as much inner dialogue and stuff that you would get in like a novel that was the same length. So they're not going to be able to, even though they have pictures, not everything can be expressed in pictures.
I just think it's really interesting when you consider the differences between the two versions of the same medium, how little really takes place
Yeah.
in your average manga. That's not to say I don't like manga, but I feel like the pace is very slow, even with things that should feel faster.
It's kind of like when there's not a lot of anime that I've actually read the light novels for, but Solo Leveling is my example for it. Watching Solo Leveling season 1 was cool, but the books were better because there's just so much more. Like you get all of the thoughts, you get all of the explanations, you get just so much more in-depth experience of the characters and the actions and things that happen versus watching it transpire on the screen. So if I had my preference between the two and I could only have one in existence, I'd probably pick the light novels over the anime or the manga existing. Because I just think that it's the best way to tell the story, though I don't begrudge those who think the other way. And the anime is really cool. I haven't read I haven't started the second season yet, but I'm sure it's visually cool.
I also really like pretty pictures.
This one is a very nice picture.
I feel like as the series goes on, I, as a treat for the holidays, got myself the entire series, which is 7 books by Spica Aoki, Kaiju Girl, Caramelise. It's nice. Like, I was drawn to it because it looks cool, but as the series goes on, the cover art gets a little less interesting for a while. I've actually already read this one. Eventually there will be a review. I don't know when it will come out because sometimes I'm slow. Editing Elaine can be a little slow. Reading Elaine can also be very slow because now she has a big girl job and isn't in school where she just gets to read books and then write about them and overanalyze them to the point where they're no longer interesting. But that's just beside the point. So in this one, this girl, her name is Kuroi Akaishi, I might be pronouncing that wrong, has this strange incurable disease where she goes through bodily changes when she experiences strong emotion. As it goes on, we start to realize that she starts to transform into a kaiju, specifically when she's feeling love for somebody. So she tries to steer clear of like the class, like pretty boy, like the one that all the girls are like, oh my God, over. And his name is Arata Minami. But she finds it harder and harder to avoid him as time goes on. So what I like about this is, like, yes, it's one of my least favorite genres, romance, but they add an interesting spin to it where it is a same-sex exploration, or excuse me, heterosexual sex exploration, which of the 3 is my second favorite. But they add kaijus, and kaijus wreck stuff. And that appeals to the part of me that, like, loves smashing sandcastles and breaking things. It's cute, it's love, but there's also wrecking stuff. And it sounds really bad, but I really like when stuff gets wrecked. So now I'm reading this series, and eventually there will be reviews for every book in this series. I don't know when that'll happen, but it's something to look forward to. And the art is pretty cool. Like, look at the back cover. Look at her. She's cute. Look at that.
Yeah.
The way they draw facial expressions is also really interesting. Like, here's like another like chapter page. I love the full chapter art in this book. I think it's really good. Nice. But that one I'm really really excited to explore. Wish Amazon would send me books in better condition, but that's fine. The other one that I think it was a web one for a while, and then it's been converted into a book, and then I've read a few like this now, is Colette Decides to Die, which collects the first few volumes of what was online. It takes place, I'm assuming, in ancient Greece because it has the Greek pantheon in it, and some of you might not know I'm Greek, so I do like experiencing retellings or stories with Greek elements in them because it's something I grew up with and it's very familiar to me.
Unless they are inaccurate. Then do not watch it in the same room as her.
I will tear it apart. So this one did a halfway decent job. It's essentially this girl named Colette is an apothecary, but she's like really overworked. She doesn't take the best care of herself. And she decides one day that she's just going to jump down this well that's in her town because supposedly it's a portal to another world. There's just this legend around this well that it's a portal to another world. So she jumps down this well with the intentions of escaping her life, and she winds up in the underworld.
That's where Hades lives.
Yes, and she meets him, and he's ill. He's got a rash, he's got a fever, so she starts treating him, and the series explores their relationship and their interactions with one another. So what I've liked from what I've read so far is that it follows the pattern of having relatable human characters and gods. Like the Greek pantheon, unlike some other pantheons or like God as most people know, you know, the singular God, they're imperfect beings. They're basically like humans with magical powers, more or less, and they're people believe in them, they pray to them. And I think one of the most famous examples is like Hera is a very jealous woman because Zeus is always like cheating on her. So we see this portrayal of Hades where he is similar to how he's described in Greek mythology, but with a few different traits that make it easier for them to tell the story. And I think it's going to be well done, kind of true with like some elements of just extra fantasy to make things work a little better, and it's been very intriguing so far. I'm very excited to see where this one goes. The art is somewhat simplistic, like just one example, but I think it's, you know, well done art. It does what it's supposed to do. So I'm very excited for this one, even if Jeremy thinks, you know, I might be a little too hard on it because I'm a Greek person and I'm, you know, I'm judgmental, but like extra judgmental. Not enough Windex. That's the Canadian Greeks. I don't know what's up with that. But changing gears a little bit back to traditional, quote, traditional literature with just the words, I picked up something called The Echo of Old Books. It's about a rare book dealer, Ashlyn, and her affinity for books extends beyond the intoxicating scent of old paper, ink, and leather, which is a group of smells I adore. I love the smell of a new book, but there's also something kind of nice about one that's just kind of been sitting there and just existing. She can feel the echoes of the book's previous owners, an emotional fingerprint only she can read. When she discovers a pair of beautifully bound volumes that appear to have never been published, her gift quickly becomes an obsession. Not only is each inscribed with a startling incremation, but the authors, Hemi and Bell, tell conflicting sides of a tragic romance. I'm interested to see where this one goes. I think it's an interesting premise. I think we've seen elements of this sort of story before, but I'm always interested to see how people kind of twist it and make it their own, which is why I picked this one up. The next one I picked up was Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. I read his House on the Cerulean Sea a few years ago, and it quickly became one of my favorite books, so I'm excited to see what else he's done. I also received the second book in that series as a Christmas gift, and I'm excited to see where that story went after I reread because I've forgotten some things, and I think I'll enjoy it more once I've refreshed myself. But Under the Whispering Door is about when a reaper comes to collect Wallace from his own funeral. Wallace begins to suspect he might be dead. Good thing to suspect. And when Hugo, the owner of a peculiar tea shop, promises to help him cross over, Wallace decides he's definitely dead. But But even in death, he's not ready to abandon the life he barely lived. So when Wallace is given 1 week to cross over, he sets about living a lifetime in 7 days. I think it's an interesting premise. I think that trying to carry out a bucket list is something that's been explored in a lot of movies and in literature. But the lesson that people learn from that experience, I think, shifts depending on who's telling the story. And I feel like there's always one. Maybe this won't be the case, but I feel like we're going to learn a lesson here, and I'm excited. And I also really, really like this author. I think their work is very well done. So naturally, I had to buy it. I don't have a problem, Jeremy. I mean, maybe I do. Maybe I'm addicted to books, but it's not drugs, so it's okay. He's ignoring me because, you know, he doesn't want to judge me, but he's totally judging me right now.
You can have an addiction. It's a less expensive addiction than our other addictions.
That's true. We do have problems, but it's not drugs, so it's okay.
It's true.
The next one I got is this like cozy little book called Can't Spell Treason Without T. It's part of a currently 4-book series. And, oh gosh, they have difficult names. I got the exclusive deluxe edition with the jade sprayed edges. Brand new original art.
You don't know the name of it?
Treason, Can't Spell Treason Without T. So I basically bought this one because I need like a cozy little piece of literature, because some things I read are a little heavy. Not that I don't love a fair amount of the things I read, but you know, the Poppy War is a little heavy in terms of subject, as amazing as it is. And so are things like Strange the Dreamer and Game of Thrones and the Stormlight Archive. So having something that's supposed to be a little more laid back is kind of good for me to take a little break here and there. Oh, you're probably going to be surprised by this one. What do you think's next on my list, Jeremy?
I didn't even put the last one up yet. I don't know what the next one is.
It's a manga box set, so does that help?
Demon Slayer.
No. It's actually a silent voice. I got the box set.
The freaking movie you wouldn't let us watch?
Well, in my defense, I have a harder time with visual mediums.
You mean like manga?
Well,
That was the last one, by the way.
I meant film in this instance. Like, I have a harder time watching things than I do reading things.
Yeah, everybody, you know that really highly rated movie by the same person who did Weathering with You and what was it called? Suzume and other things. He made this movie called Silent Voice, and we started watching it, and Elaine got 10 minutes in before she...
It was more than that!
No, it really was like 10 minutes in.
It was more.
And she vehemently told us we had to stop watching it because she got bored.
I mean, I would rather read stuff. So he's surprised I picked this one up. Like, it seems like an interesting thing, and I've heard good things about it. And I think I'll probably enjoy it more as a book. And maybe if I enjoy it as a book, I'll appreciate the movie more. But there's no guarantee. Like, I really only started watching movies and anime and TV again once Jeremy and I got together. Like, prior to that, like, as a kid, I used to watch things a lot. Like, I really liked watching TV. Like, I had my Saturday morning cartoon lineup. I had my early morning, like, before my parents were up and I could bother them specials. But as I got older, I really stopped watching things until he was like, okay, we're going to watch stuff because I like stuff and we're going to do this together now. And now I do it. But I still prefer my books. That's a really awkward cover.
Well, I mean, they're kind of two awkward individuals.
I know. They're capturing the awkwardness perfectly. But, you know, that's just what it is. You know, I like my books. And Jeremy's learning to like books more too. Right, Jeremy? He's just nodding. He's nodding. Don't worry about him. I got a lot more manga on this list. Another one I picked up was called Saki the Succubus Hungers Tonight, which is a supernatural romance manga about a succubus in training. She's a beautiful young woman, Saki. She's a little bit naive. Might seem harmless, but she's really a succubus who, as you can imagine, takes after the demons we all know and love, and thrives off of like male desire and male energy. But she's just not very good at being a succubus, which is why she's a succubus in training. And she suddenly finds herself in a situation where she moves in with a 30-year-old, and it's about their comedic interactions with each other and how she doesn't want to feed the way a succubus would normally feed, and the hardships that arise from her decision to just not be true to her own nature, if you will. And I always like those stories of characters that are kind of contrary and make their lives difficult, not only because it creates a plot, but because I like to see how long they can last actually doing that before they give in or find some weird solution. Usually magic. I feel like magic's usually the solution. Jeremy nods at this. Oh, the next ones, I got Lakota, the whole series. It came out over the course of a few months in a release of omnibuses. It's called Innocent. And I thought he would like it because Lakota is a bit of a history buff, very much into World War II specifically, and just likes history in general, really. He wants to be a history teacher. So I picked up this series called Innocent, which is a fictionalization of the true life of Charles Henri Sanson, the gentleman of Paris who performed nearly 3,000 executions in 18th century France. Not his typical wheelhouse, I will admit, but it is historical, and there's death, and those are things Lakota likes. So I'm hoping he'll appreciate this. The art is also really intriguing. I feel like the cover art declines as the series go on, but they have a lot of like detailed line work, which I think he'll appreciate, and very haunting images, which I also think he will appreciate. So I'm hoping I did good. Maybe we'll weigh in with him when he reads these, and he can tell me if I screwed up or not. What do you think, Jer?
I think he'll like them.
Maybe you'll like them too. Maybe I'll make you both read them and talk about them, father and son.
Yes.
That's my secret long-term plan, is to infect this house with literature and make everyone read. I guess now that you know it won't happen, but I can dream. I can hope and
if you
dream.
know, you know.
You do. The next one I picked up is called Mujina Into the Deep. It doesn't come out until next month, but I'm really looking forward to it. The first thing that drew me to it was the compartmentalized nature of its cover. It's basically a bunch of little panels making up one face and the title and everything. The headline is "No life but the one you make, no rights but the one you take," and I don't really like those grabby little things, but the description is, "In the near future, human rights aren't guaranteed, but they are for sale. Without your rights, you're just a Mujina, with no place to call your own and no laws to protect you. But if the laws don't apply to you, you can do anything you want. You just need the skills to back it up, and if you're really good, you can really make a killing." Terumi Morgan bitterly accepts that he shouldn't expect a lot from life. He just wants to meet his deadlines at work and watch his adult entertainment stuffs in peace. But then an unexpected sick day sends him on a collision course with two people who will change his world forever: a runaway kid and a 30-something Mujina assassin. Suddenly, life is expecting a lot from him. So there are a few things that intrigued me about this. It's like, you're buying rights, and sometimes people don't feel like they really have those. But something about rereading this made me think of like when the church back in the Middle Ages, I believe, would sell tickets to heaven. And kind of this concept made a little more worldly and approachable for the modern reader, and with rights, which is something I feel like people talk about a lot, feeling like their rights are being restricted or taken away. And having an exploration of this in literature is intriguing, not only because it allows us to explore things in like a safe space, if you will, but in a way that kind of makes us question like how we should respond to these situations when we have these feelings of we can't do what we want or we shouldn't do what we want. Sometimes a very good thing. You shouldn't do what you want to do for, you know, safety reasons, but looking forward to this one. Feel like I should stop talking now before I talk myself into a wall. I think Jeremy agrees with me from afar. I can see it. See it. I do have some snacks that we could try, Jeremy, if you come back. I can't, Kit Kats. They're chocolate orange flavored Kit Kats, Jeremy. Before I talk about even more books. What I like about these guys.
You've definitely gone well beyond the realistic number of books that you're going to read in January.
Don't worry about it. We're going to keep going. I got more. But what I like about these guys is they're like bite-sized, so I don't have to feel bad about eating them. So here's like 2 of them together. Come in these little guys. I'm going to give Jeremy his.
Eat. It's good.
There's much stretching. The taste is faintly orange, but then it's bitter. It's actually really weird.
They're orange?
Yeah, they're orange.
Pretty good. I like that.
I don't like it at all. I think it's weirdly bitter. The smell is pleasant though, because it's like a mix of chocolate and citrus, which is 2 very good things. I
think it's good. I like chocolate and orange, like you're saying, is a mix of good things, and I enjoy that combination. It does have a little bit of bitterness. I can see what you're saying, though.
The wafer is nice and crunchy, though. I do like wafers in chocolate. I also like quinoa crunches. Like anything with that like crunch factor makes me like the chocolate a lot more. Except Kit Kats are normally very expensive, so I don't buy them very much. I'm going to do like a rapid fire round. Ready?
Wait,
So
I found an image of those ones that we just consumed. A rapid fire round of what?
Books. So I Want You to Make Me Beautiful. Sounds like a slightly questionable title. Collected into an omnibus by Coco. It's a yosei romance tale of fake dating and finding beauty in unexpected places. I do like lies. I don't think they're great for relationships, so I want to see how this quickly devolves. Love and Focus, The Complete Collection by Yoko Nogiri. Teenage girl whose passion for photography leads her to a new school, a new dorm, and a new love triangle, because who doesn't love a love triangle?
Are these all books you're planning on doing reviews for?
Oh, we'll get there eventually. Don't you worry. I don't know when it's going to happen, guys. I don't know what order I'm going to read these in, but they're coming to a screen near you eventually. I've heard good things about this one. It's called Even a Replica Can Fall in Love. Part of a series. Her face may be Suano's, but her feelings are her own. When Suano is sick or has a test to take or simply doesn't feel like going out, I take her place. I'm her replica, her stand-in. My purpose is to help her to do whatever she asks and nothing more. But when I fall in love, everything changes. I start putting my hair half up so the boy I like knows it's me and spend time with him as myself. I'm her replica and everything I have is borrowed, but my heart is mine alone. So this sounds like a clone situation gone awry. And I'm interested to see how this goes awry. So I feel like it's the young adult, more approachable version of what happened in the Prestige, I think. Where
you can't, I mean, that's literally spoiling the whole premise of the movie.
But it's so many years old now.
Yeah, it's not really that similar to The Prestige, so don't worry about the thing that she's referencing.
I lied, guys. I'm a liar.
It's really not that similar. Like, actually, it's really not that similar.
Well, I mean, it had that one. Anyway. So next up is Summer Ghost. It's based on the critically acclaimed animated short film of 3 high schoolers' supernatural coming of age. According to urban legend, there's an abandoned airfield on the edge of town where a spirit known as the Summer Ghost can be summoned. After discovering each other on the internet, 3 teenagers from different high schools who share a special connection to death meet up to summon the mysterious specter. I feel like you don't really hear people say specter anymore.
Harvey Specter.
Thus begins a story that will bridge the boundary between life and death on a midsummer night that none of them will ever forget. I mean, it's basically a seance, but like in a field. So I gotta read that, Jeremy.
It sounds like an interesting premise. This image that I found is very big, apparently.
Well, they don't want you to show the people. The next one, I told you, rapid fire. We're just doing.
It's too fast. Like, by the time I get one image, you're just on to the next thing before I even get it up.
You can do it.
No, that's okay. That's
the Summer Ghost one I was just talking about right there. The next one is Kagurabachi Volume 1. Kagurabachi. It's one of those ones that's being like touted as the new thing, kind of like Dan to Dan.
Well, like Kaiju number 8 when that was the big thing.
This is something that just came out last November, so November 2024. Basically, Chihiro's cursed past sends him down a quest of bloody vengeance, and we like vengeance. I mean, who doesn't like a little vengeance? So basically, Chihiro's father, Kunishige, is the most famous swordsmith in the land. Thanks to his 6 enchanted blades, the war that has been gripping the nation ends, and peaceful days follow. After the war, he retrieves all 6 blades and hides them in the cellar of his workshop. But sorcerers raid his home and leave Kunishige dead in front of Chihiro. Many years later, Chihiro wields Kunishige's 7th and final enchanted blade on a mission to retrieve the stolen swords. As a young boy, Chihiro trains every day under his father to become a swordsmith. Although different in temperament, the two spend peaceful days laughing and working together. But one day, tragedy strikes. Now Chihiro burns with hatred and sets out to exact revenge. Following clues left behind by a ruthless Yakuza organization, Chihiro confronts the Hishaku, a deadly group of sorcerers that may be behind his father's murder. I will say that this is one description at the back of the cover on Amazon, but it seems like 2 separate ones. It's like the author couldn't decide which one was better to sell their novel. As the second one like recounted half of what the first one was saying, but was vaguer. You know what I mean?
Vague can be good.
I think vague can be good. But why would you include 2 things that are basically saying the same thing in different words? It just seems weird to me. Unless the second is more specific to this first novel. And then the first paragraph was like a more generalized description of what's going to happen throughout the course of the series. Either way, I feel like it's a strange choice. The next one looked really cute to me. It came back out in October of 2024. It's called How to Repair a Broken Cup. How to Repair a Broken Cup by Riko Wariko, which you probably can't say 10 times fast. It's a BL manga with a time-bending twist. Although Kippy and Kita have been together for 10 years now, they're still finding it difficult to be completely honest with one another, and I feel like that's something that's really relatable and something that happens in a lot of relationships. However, it seems fate has a plan to reignite their passion and fix their communication problems. The morning after Kippy accidentally breaks a sentimental mug, he swaps places with his younger self from 10 years ago. Suddenly, the couple both have the opportunity to face the problem they fell in love with a whole decade back. Or to face the person they fell in love with a whole decade back and maybe reignite the passion that's been threatening to fade away. So I think this one is going to be cute, not just because the cover art seems cute and because it's a BL and those tend to be pretty cute, but because it's a time-bending thing where they get to re-experience falling in love and the reasons why they fell in love with somebody. So I think it's going to be a sweet, tender little BL that's just going to make me smile, and I'm looking forward to that one. The next one is Love is Dark, also came out in October of last year. Basically, it's how many lives does an assassin need to survive a high school romance? Intriguing question. Not going to expand on it any further. I was drawn to it because of the cover and also decent reviews shortly after it came out. It was also a very highly anticipated book and series, so I'm looking forward to exploring that. And I also like things with assassins. They tend to be pretty interesting people, although kind of like blank in character and kind of bland in character, but interesting in action, I think would be fairest to say. Next one is Ripping Someone Open Only Makes Them Bleed. It's from the same person who wrote I Want to Eat Your Pancreas and I Had That Same Dream Again. It's a tender coming of age story about the tangled lives of teenage girls. So looks like it's going to be Yuri, which is probably my favorite romance type. I think it tends to be sweeter, slower paced, and I tend to prefer the art. Like, I think the art that's used in Yuri differs slightly from yaoi and male-female relationships, and it tends to be like brighter, but also like softer in elements, and like that cutesy sort of style appeals to me. In Another World, My Sister Stole My Name is the next one, and it's self-exploratory. I can't say words.
Self-exploratory?
No, when like the title tells you essentially what.
Self-explanatory?
Yeah, that's what I couldn't say explanatory
What's
before.
it called?
In Another World, My Sister Stole My Name. Came out in August of 2024. And basically, through a handheld mirror connected to another world, college student Ichika shares a friendship with a boy named Cecil, one that only her older sister Karen knows about. Oh, God. We know Karen's the bad guy and the nuisance all at once. When Karen and the mirror disappear one day, Ichika is devastated, but grief turns to shock a year later when she, too, is sent to the world on the other side, only to find her lost sister and a grown-up Cecil, except why are her sister's first words to her, "I've missed you, Karen"? And why is everyone else calling her Ichika? In a world where her name and her past have been stolen, Ichika must find a way to forge her own destiny. We can make how many names I pronounced Ichika differently a drinking game. But I like this. Like, it seems like it's obviously a story of stolen identity, and I want to see how the main character navigates that. Any hot take on it, Jeremy?
I mean, it seems like an interesting premise.
I'm in my last leg of books, Jeremy.
In Another World with my vanity mirror.
With my vanity. I feel like you don't see those handheld mirrors anymore. You get like compacts, but you don't get the big ones.
I was transported to another world, and all I had were the contents of my purse. Little did I know that this vanity mirror was going to be the most important item that I could have possibly brought. The manga adaptation.
You should write manga, Jeremy. But that title, sure to sell. This next one's short, though.
Can I have that snack thing before you go on to the next one?
Next one and then snack thing. The wolf is not scary.
I didn't agree, but okay.
I just do what I want. When humanity evolved and gained half-human, half-animal forms, a new social order was established. Now thoroughbred wolves like Shiru stand at the top of the heap, but Shiru has a secret. Unlike his relatives who are all about strength and dominance, he's into cute things. That's how this whole deal with Usami started. Ever since he saw the boy's rabbit form and fell head over heels, Shiru's desperately wanted to heat him up like the big bad wolf he is.
This sounds like Beastars.
Well,
except it's two boys.
Sorry, this makes me think a lot about Sating the Wolf.
Yeah.
Review forthcoming. Very similar premise also with a rabbit and a wolf. And people falling in love. And I want to see where it goes.
Picture of it.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. So.
Oh, I found a good picture.
Well, Jeremy's putting the pretty picture up about this thing that I'm really hoping is as good as Sating the Wolf. We're going to show off this Alfort mini chocolate snack that Jeremy wants to try. Ooh. Got it at our local Japanese market. It's from the Bourbon Company, which I think we've tried things from before. Has a chestnut on, chestnuts on the cover, so I'm wondering if it has a faint chestnut flavor. Although I don't know if I'd be able to tell because I don't eat chestnuts very often.
Yeah.
So there is a very convenient pull tab up here, which allows me to open it. This is such a like Japanese thing with these like neat little packages in other neat little packages. I love how you turned off your camera before we tried the snack that you insisted on trying, Jeremy. Oh. I was not expecting this, guys. Look at that. Like, I thought it would be a dark chocolate, like the box, but it's like borderline white. It's like white chocolate with a little bit of, you know, actual chocolate thrown in. It smells like what I recall chestnut. Actually, it smells kind of like coffee with sugar, and there's a wafer on the back.
It does. Oh, this is gonna taste like coffee.
I don't really get any chocolate taste from this.
It tastes more like coffee than it tastes like chocolate.
I mainly taste like the cookie, which is just like a generic graham kind of thing. I don't even taste the chocolate.
I mean, it's okay. It actually, for a coffee flavored thing, this isn't that bad. I usually really don't like coffee flavored things.
But like I said, I think it's supposed to be chestnut, but it doesn't taste like that or smell like that, which is kind of bizarre. Guys, I'm on my last 6 books.
Cool. I'm gonna go work on dinner while you do that.
I mean, I did buy chicken. You just stick it in the oven. But
Yeah.
this is him wanting to ditch me. He's like, I've had enough books, Elaine. I can't anymore. Will you come back once you put the chicken in the oven?
Joke's on you. The chicken's already in the oven.
Oh, whoopsies. So I bought The Hidden Dungeon Only I Can Enter as a light novel, mainly because it is an anime I see pop up on my suggestions all the time. But it's about exploring a secret labyrinth, and who doesn't want to explore a secret labyrinth? So on my list. Orca Roika, I bought the first few volumes. Essentially, there's this orc, his name is Bash, who has a secret that he doesn't want other people to know about. So he goes on a journey to conceal the secret in other lands and winds up in a lot of trouble doing that. I'm keeping this sufficiently vague because it's suggested for 17 plus and I want to be YouTube friendly. So if you're looking for something not safe for work, look this book up and check it out. I believe it's by the same guy who did Mushoku Tensei, if that gives you any ideas. Next is How to Build a Dungeon, Book of the Demon King. It's a mature dark fantasy series about one man's thirst for power and ambition to create the ultimate dungeon. So this is fantasy, but also building a dungeon. And I want to see what direction his dungeon goes in. Is it going to be more like, you know, I capture people and they just stay there in chains, or is it going to go somewhere else? I need to know. Honey Trapped Shared House is the third to last book. Hayato is a master of espionage whose latest job is the Familia Shared House, a sham residence meant to lure enemy agents and turn them to his side. But even Hayato could never predict that the very first resident would be his childhood crush, Seraphi. That is a bizarre name. Fully grown. Now it's spy against spy and libido against libido? Don't judge me. With other impossibly attractive undercover ladies eager to join the fun. So, a bunch of things I like. Spies, secrets, suggestive content, in one book. So I bought the first 3. I'm hoping it's not as shallow as it could turn out to be and there's like actual plot, but maybe I'm getting my hopes up too high. I'll let you know. This is one that has popped up on our High Dive suggested feed. I know it's weird things on High Dive. It's called Loner Life in Another World. And it asks the question, is one really the loneliest number? And I think, yes, it is. That song was truthful. But two can be just as bad as one. In this one, Haruka is just your average high school loner. We've got our title already. Minding his own business and keeping to himself as he makes it through his high school career until one day he finds himself being sent to another world alongside the rest of his class. Before he knows it, he's suddenly face to face with the god of this new world, who presents him with a list of cheat skills to choose from. But there's a catch. It's first come, first served, and his classmates have already beaten him to the punch. Haruka has to make do with what he can get as he navigates his way through this brave new world, all while flying solo. So, I am a sucker for isekai. I think the issue with isekai is that we're starting to follow a trend, so it doesn't always feel fresh. What I like about this one is it suggests, I could be wrong, that our MC is going to get a not so great skill and is also going to be stuck on his own. So I want to see how he navigates this situation where he kind of gets cheated, and I'm assuming will wind up having to interact with his classmates at some point, or at least meeting them again and dealing with them at that point. And I want to see how the situation changes all of them. I feel like when you're thrown into an unfamiliar situation, you might not really be yourself anymore because like you're nervous, you're scared, you're not sure how you're going to get food and water and the other things you need to survive. And I want to see how their personalities are skewed by this situation and what skill he winds up choosing, because it doesn't sound like it's going to be great. And I want to see what everyone else chooses, which are probably slightly more great. And the final book on this list that I have treated myself to because I deserve it is called Miss Savage Fang. The strongest mercenary in history is reincarnated as an unstoppable noblewoman. Yes, that is a mouthful, but we're not going to worry about that. It is this. Dainty on the outside, ferocious on the inside, Mylene has it all. She's a daughter of nobility. She boasts incredible aptitude with magic and the blade, and she possesses striking vermilion-tinged locks that signify she's been chosen by God. It's a really weird way to signify that, but okay. Yet this elegant warrior hides a shocking secret. Inside her lurks the soul of the strongest mercenary in history, Savage Fang. In his past life, Savage Fang cut down countless foes of superior ability for his employers with nothing but cunning and strength. Now reborn as Mylene, this former sellsword will use her past experience and newfound powers to shape the world as she sees fit, even if she has to get her aristocratic peers involved along the way. I like stories of rebirth. I feel like they're not necessarily always well done, but I like the idea of them and the concept of them. My concern with this one, as it is with any other story in this vein, is that they'll fall on old tropes and it just won't play out very well. What I like about this one, though, is that the two lives this character has led, so the life as a sellsword and the life as a noblewoman, are two very different things. These are two very different lives. So I'm interested to see how this person, who will be out of their element not only because they're reincarnated, but forced into a situation they've never been in, like they've never been noble, it sounds like, handles the situation. And I'm going to tell you all about it when I get there. So there you have it, my it's not even all the books, guys. That's not even all the books. But a good chunk, maybe half of the books I'm looking to read maybe this year, next few years, and all the things I'll be reviewing for all you lovely folks, and all the things that Jeremy will be looking at, because, you know, I'm going to make him read stuff because I'm like that. How do you feel about that, Jeremy? I'm going to make you read stuff.
That's fine.
Oh, I thought there would be more of a fight back, but, you know, that's fine.
I'll live.
Oh, you'll live by reading and joining my world of literature?
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to make him read stuff. But we're going to read stuff like this. And we're going to read stuff like this. and we're going to talk about it, and it's going to be amazing, and I'm so excited for all the books I have to read. But I'm also really overwhelmed because it's a lot of literature. But
So wait, we have some questions in chat.
Do
I don't
we?
know how long they've been there because I was away from the screen and I'm the only one who ever looks at chat. So, do we prefer physical manga or do we read digital?
So I read both, but I strongly prefer any sort of physical literature. I just like the smell of books. I like how they feel in my hand. Like I really like that tactile sensation that you really don't get with something that is digital. And I will probably say that until the day I die, even if I am overrun by literature in my home.
Also, Miguel says he loves when we stream next to each other. This is actual size right here. This is actually a side by side camera. This isn't actually us on opposite setups. But I have consumed most manga digitally. These that Elaine got me is really the first mangas that I'm going to be kind of consuming physically for the most part.
I mean, you borrowed some library books.
Yeah, I borrowed some ones from the library for some school assignments, but for the most part, I've read them digitally. And that's just because I read Boruto as it comes out regularly. It's the only one I read regularly. And that's, I can only get the digital version of it until the volumes actually release. But I do prefer the idea of physical manga better than digital. It's just so expensive.
Not the reality.
Yeah, and just trying to get it at the library is kind of hard because the library doesn't have most of the volumes, and then you blow through the volumes pretty fast. Actually, yes, I was getting when I was rereading Bloom Into You, I was bringing it to work and I was reading Bloom Into You physically, which was nice. I like that a lot better than reading it on like an iPad or something.
Less eye strain.
Yeah, less eye strain, and there's just something better about reading it.
The book smell.
Yeah.
I love the smell of books. Is that the only question? Was there more?
Is it delicious in the dungeon? I don't know what that was referring to because I think it was a while ago.
No, I don't have delicious in the dungeon. Sorry, guys. We have started watching it. We didn't get very far. Perhaps we will revisit.
Yeah, we got episode 4, something like that.
I might 4 or 5, somewhere in there.
I wanna finish it, but we have not been able to finish it. Like we've been flitting around between animes lately. It's been a little rough finding one to settle on.
I mean, the problem is
Literally 3 hours ago. What?
wait, we've been streaming. No, we haven't been streaming for 3 hours. That's hogwash.
That comes from me being the only one out of the two of us that's going to jump around in tabs to try and find the pictures of the books that she's talking about. So I don't have the stream tab open.
Whoopsies.
But
Really me.
yeah, we started watching Certain Magical Index, which is what, 2007?
Early 2000s, if not mid to late. Somewhere in the 2000s.
I'm going to look it up. Certain Magical Index anime. 2008. Okay, so I said 2007. It was pretty close. So we started watching that, and I was interested in it initially, and then it started to fade when we got to like episode, what are we at, like 8?
Yeah, we're not that far in.
We're not that, and it started to wear on me a little, and it's gonna have to do some work to get me interested back into it. But that world has lasted a while between 3 seasons and a movie for Magical Index. I think there's 3 seasons of Railgun.
It's got a lot.
And then there's the Accelerator spinoff. So there's a lot. So somebody must like it.
I'm sure people do. I think the issue, I wouldn't really call it an issue. I feel like there's a nostalgic element to its artistic style. Like it looks like something that came out of the 90s, like late 90s. It has those kind of like edgy lines that a lot of those pieces have. But the storyline to me is just bland. Like I can't get into it. I don't find the characters intriguing. And then I feel like we look at each other when things are happening on the screen and we're like, does that make sense given our limited scope of the lore and understanding of the lore? I feel like we've been questioning it a lot, and that's been a little troublesome.
It had what you're talking about with the the animation. It has that like Princess Resurrection issue, where it's like it looks a lot older than it is, which I don't particularly like.
It might be based off the manga, which might have had that style.
We got another question. What are your most decisive factors in choosing a manga over an anime, aside from the more plot you get? So, like, if we were to decide if we were going to read the manga instead of the anime, instead of watch the anime?
I think so.
Usually it would be that the manga is the only thing out. Typically, I would watch the anime over read the manga just because it takes so long for me to read the manga typically, and then I have to set time aside, and I'm like a big multitasker. But I do like the portability of a physical manga. That's cool. Because I can't always sit and watch anime like out and about, but I can sit with a manga and read it.
I think for me it varies. Like there's some things I would just prefer to read because I genuinely prefer reading. But I do have trouble switching from like quote traditional literature with just words to manga or any sort of graphic novel because it's not something I'm used to reading. What I find is when I read them, I have to force myself to look at the pictures because I'm not used to looking at pictures, which sounds weird, but after a certain age, you don't read books with pictures typically anymore. So I have to train myself to look at the pictures, and then depending on if there's like certain layouts confuse me. So if you have a picture and there's like text here and then there's something happening in the middle and the rest of the text is on the other side, it like confuses my brain. And I find it very hard to read manga. So I typically prefer, strangely enough, as much as I like books, to read lots of action sequences in manga with the expectation that they'll be harder for me to follow like anime. If it's like a romance thing, I tend to veer more toward the manga because there isn't going to be typically as much fighting where I'm more likely to get confused. If I'm choosing between one or the other for other reasons, it could be, hey, there's this good deal on this manga and I can get the whole series right now, and then I'll buy it. Or if I really like the art. The other one, and this is going to sound really bad, is there's about 2 or 3 voice actors that I just do not like. There's one in particular where I hear their voice and I'm like, no, I will not watch you now. So if it's something I'm interested in and that voice actor happens to be in the anime, I might choose to read the manga or I will watch it subbed. So
they're not even a bad voice actor. It's just a voice that you just don't like.
I just don't like the sound of their voice. It just irks me, and I don't think they're talented. So, you know,
it's the reason why we can't watch Slime season 3, which is
it's also really boring. It got really boring. We
watched one episode. How do you
season
even
2
know
was
if
boring.
It's boring?
Season 2 got boring, and I haven't heard good things about season 3. Leave me alone. So we love each other. We just disagree on a lot of things. Don't worry about it.
Eventually I'll watch it. But so for me, like you were just mentioning about like having to force yourself to read or look at the pictures. Yeah. We were talking about that when I was taking my creating a graphic narrative class, and I was rereading manga, and Miguel says he loved Slime season 3. He
would, though. We're very contrary people. We don't agree on anything.
But I also found myself having to force myself to look at the pictures. I would just jump from text bubble to text bubble. I don't really have problems reading them the direction you're supposed to read them, but I'll often just skip over the pictures and then just kind of go back to the pictures and look at them after I've read, the full sentences, because it's kind of hard to do both. It's kind of the same reason why I've really moved myself away from subbed anime. As much as I'm physically capable of consuming subbed anime, I don't want to. I want to be able to hear what they're saying. I just want to be able to look away from the screen and still know what they're saying, rather than having to force myself to sit there and read the subtitles in lieu of watching the show. Like you can get both, it's fine. You can get both, but you're not getting both ideally. You're not getting the ideal version of either, because you're either not paying attention to the image as much as you can, or you're not paying attention to the words as much as you can. So one of them's not getting absorbed properly.
Which is really troublesome with like a high action sequence where they're shouting weird names or something, and you're like, names, talking, and then you're trying to look at fighting, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And you can't focus on it.
So oftentimes now, Elaine is a lot less picky than I am. I will pick what we watch based on if there's dubbed episodes on it, because I want to be able to just sit and watch the show and not have to read while watching the show. Even though it irks me that the dub is so far behind. I don't understand why it has to be like 2 weeks behind, 3 weeks behind sometimes.
Yeah. And I feel like dubbed acting, like culturally, we're very different from Japan. So the way we express ourselves through any sort of medium and even in acting is very different. And I feel like there's a lot more that we relate to and resonate with when it's people speaking English and acting like, the way we would expect people to act, compared to the cultural difference that is Japanese voice actors speaking in their native language and acting the way they are supposed to act in their culture. Like, I think for the most part, I prefer dub, not only because like I can concentrate on the visuals in addition to whatever is being said, but because I think the acting tends to be better.
That's also true, Ceph Leopard. The dub is much better now than it used to be back in the day, when it's like, hey, hand me one of those jelly donuts, and it's a rice ball. But and I also can put a face to a lot of the English voice actors. I've met a lot of them at cons. I've seen panels where they're talking about their craft and everything, and like there's extra layers to it that the Japanese dub doesn't have to worry about as much, because they can say the actual words that are being said by the characters. Matching the lip flaps is not as difficult when you're saying the actual words.
It's true.
But trying to come up with a script that matches the lip flaps in English when they're speaking Japanese is a lot more difficult. And I think it's a cool art form. Not that I have anything against Japanese voice actors, but like you were saying, I feel like we resonate with them more because the way that they express themselves is different from the way we express ourselves when we're speaking in English.
Their voices also sound different. I think like women in that culture tend to have like a higher pitch than women here on average, but then they soften the tone of their voice. They like make themselves quieter, and I think it's kind of interesting how they do that. But there is a part of me that also likes the sub from the standpoint of, as someone who does have issues with my hearing, like it's nice to have that support. But the issue I have too is like, and you notice this only when you're watching a dub with a subtitle, is that they don't match. Like what's being said is not exactly what the translation or what the subtitles are saying.
Yeah.
And that irks me. Or when people are speaking really quickly, sometimes like it goes by too quickly and I can't catch it, even with the sub, and I have to go back. Or this is my least favorite thing, when let's say someone's singing, or like there's someone talking like in the background and then there are people talking in the front, and they're making translations for both, and you have to try to follow both at the same time. It's
usually they'll put one on top of the other, or they'll put one on the top and one on the bottom.
Right, but like there's not enough.
It's hard to like pick up on those two things happening simultaneously.
My issue is more there's not enough time to read it.
Yeah.
Or there's some times where they won't translate anything, where I remember this was an issue I had in the quintessential quintuplets, where they communicate through text and stuff like that a lot, but they won't translate any of it. So I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know if it's still true, if they've changed it since I watched it a couple of years ago, but
no, that happens a lot. I mean, you saw that we were watching a Spy Family movie last night, and they were speaking in code, and they were translating it in Japanese right on the screen, but they weren't translating it in English unless you put on the subtitles. Then it would translate it in English. And when I watched Given for the first time, there's a very pivotal song that one of the characters sings, and if you watch it in English, he just sings it in Japanese and you don't know what he's saying.
Which is troublesome.
You have to put it into Japanese with English subtitles to get the effect of the song and to actually know what it means.
So usually I'm the only one that watches subbed.
Albedo's godlike thighs are making it difficult to concentrate, apparently.
But are the thighs
right
more
there.
godlike when she's kneeling, or the other one?
Yours is that other one gets covered a little bit, but I mean these are the thickums of the two if you were gonna pick.
Yeah, the other
thickums.
ones. Well, I mean, they both got nice thighs, but those are some shapely thighs. Shapely thighs.
I will say, I really enjoyed Konosuba, and if we were watching Konosuba subbed, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much as I did.
I think we tried watching it just to see what we do that sometimes, where we're like, let's just see what it's like for the sake of seeing what it's like. And we're like, I'm glad we didn't decide to watch it like that.
Yeah, because so many of the funny moments of Konosuba are like off-camera, offhand comments that are being said by the characters, and I feel like you don't catch that. You wouldn't catch that really at all. I mean, you'd read it, but it wouldn't be funny.
No.
I feel like if you were reading it, because you'd be jumping back and forth to the two people talking, and you wouldn't pick up on it the same way.
Or it'd be as bad as I enjoyed elements of Don't You Know I'm Sakamoto, I think was what it's called. I usually just call it Sakamoto, but where they'd have to explain what the joke was on the screen for non-Japanese viewers to understand it.
Yeah, because it was very cultural oriented jokes. There's a character, I always bring this up when this subject comes up, is there's a character in Shaman King where his entire shtick is he dresses up in costumes based off of how kanji looks. Like he'll take two kanji and dress up as like a mishmash costume that is a reference with how the two kanji look, and they don't land at all. They don't land at all for me because I don't understand it. I don't understand the joke because I don't know what the kanji looks like, and they don't explain it. So the only reason I even know what he's doing is because I looked it up, because I was like, I don't get the joke. Explain the joke. And then I realized, and it still wasn't funny, but I realized what he was doing. But that is a completely going over our heads as non-Japanese readers in that case.
It happens.
Seth Leopard saying it's very true. And the crazy thing is, I'm pretty sure the voice actor for the character I was talking about covered this song in English before he was cast in the dub. That's interesting. Was that why he was cast? It's because he covered the song?
We're waiting for the typings.
It was a very nice song, and it was pivotal. It was a pivotal plot song for them to not translate.
What is your favorite anime-related song? As we're waiting for the typing to come through.
My favorite anime song in general.
A song from an anime. Top 3 is also acceptable.
I mean, Tank probably has to be up there.
It's catchy.
Real Folk Blues also. So that's 2 from Cowboy Bebop.
What a surprise!
And there is what's it? The theme song for
Mashal? I know you like that one too.
Theme song that one is good. But the theme song for Evangelion, was it Theory of Broken Angel or something? But that one's really good.
I feel like
it sounds like a topic for This Week in Weeb. That does sound like a topic for This Week in Weeb.
You boys can explore that as the music folk.
Also, the theme song for Tokyo Ghoul. It's really good.
I haven't heard that. It's interesting. I feel like I like the here we go.
Do a countdown. We'll
instrumentals.
Do a weeb war.
For a lot of anime theme songs, but I don't like the singing that goes along with the theme song. I just like the background sound. But Tank was really good. Tank is probably my favorite.
This is like no singing.
Well, yeah.
3, 2, 1, let's jam. There was a lot of good music in Inuyasha, like the original Inuyasha series. Like Fukai Mori is one of my favorite all-time songs.
I haven't seen it. I'm sorry.
But on the topics of manga, books, no, I don't think he was. Oh, that wasn't. She doesn't think that was why it was cast. It was just a coincidence.
A coinky dink.
Paradox Live, where there's about rap battles, waiting for the dub, but it's also staying Japanese. Paradox Live, I haven't. Is that the like one of the what's it called? VTuber ones that came out?
I don't know a lot of the VTuber ones. I do like Gargara's Reflect though. That was a good song.
That's the one that's got the Greek in it, right?
Yeah.
The random Greek.
For whatever reason, just like 2 lines in Greek at the beginning and the end, and I was like, oh, okay. That's an interesting choice. We'll go with it.
This looks very bright and colorful.
I do like bright and colorful things.
Paradox Live, is this... Oh, wait, I know this person. Is this a VTuber I am aware of the existence of?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'll pull it up.
So we're going to pretend... Oh, I can't even point to it. It's too far away. That we're Chocola over there gesturing at Jeremy's head and the thing that we're now putting on. They look like a teen band. Look at that. That's like some major teen band, like skater energy.
Is that Vebe? That is one I am aware of.
I thought Vebe had white hair.
She can change her hair? She can't change her hair?
And the little... I forget what it's called, a gohei or something, when they have like the one like section of hair that's moving in the different direction than the rest of their hair. I guess we would call it a cowlick, but
I just know that it was an actual ability in that legendary tank that got kicked from the hero's party with the level 99999 defensive skill. They had an actual ability that was based off the little cowlick thing where she could like sense emotions or something and it would move.
I don't remember. I don't remember a lot of the animes that we don't finish. Even some of the ones we do, I look back and I'm like, I feel like I should remember more of you, but I don't.
This anime looks very bright and colorful.
It does. That
when did this air? Is this airing now or... it's actually fun. This makes me think about it. Like, you brought it up. I don't remember what we were watching, but the fact that a lot of Japanese characters in anime smoke still, when I feel like it's really on the decline in English pop culture.
It is very much on the decline.
But they still smoke cigarettes a lot in anime.
My favorite is when they smoke the cigarette, talk, and the cigarette doesn't smell out of their mouth.
Oh, we were watching Magical Index because it has a guy who's always has a cigarette in his mouth.
It did eventually fall out of his mouth that one time. But every other time he would talk and it would just like balance on the edge of his lip somehow and kind of like roll around, but it wouldn't fall even though he wasn't holding it. And I was very confused. But we've learned, Jeremy, not to ask questions because it's anime.
He says it's not VTuber related, just a good anime with banger songs.
Oh, well, I do like catchy songs.
I do too. So this is something we can definitely check out. And I really like the character designs. It gives me Skate the Infinity vibes.
That's what I was saying. They seem like skaters.
Yeah. He was a skater boy.
She said
see you later, boy. I saw a commercial today with Avril Lavigne in it.
Really?
It was I don't know if it was a drink ad or like some kind of like product ad that had Avril Lavigne in it.
You got there.
She looks exactly the same as she did when I was a teenager listening to her.
They drink from that secret fountain.
Oh, they swapped her out with a mechanical clone. Didn't you know that?
Oh.
Yeah, it was like 2011.
Oh.
I think it was.
They didn't do it for the pandemic?
No, it happened before the pandemic.
Before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't remember what happened, but something happened. And she was in like a plane crash or something, and they swapped her out with a mechanical clone.
It's a very good looking mechanical clone.
Yeah. So it doesn't age. They can't age. Mariah Carey is also a mechanical clone at this point. She only can sing the same song on loop. That's why she sings that song all the time. They bring her out for Christmas. That's it.
Do you think they're gonna turn into Patrick Stewart, where like he always seemed the same age, and then all of a sudden he just aged like a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Patrick Stewart looked like he was 60 years old when he was in his 20s. So he just like stayed 60 years old most of his life, and now all of a sudden he's like, okay, I'm 90 now.
I don't even think he's 90 though.
No, he's in his 80s. But he's definitely approaching it. Okay. Do you have anything else to talk about?
Love this cover. Can't wait to read the series. That's what I got. And this one's got flowers on the back. I love how it gets phased out when there's a little bit of green and you just see not the book.
It's your green screened.
Yeah.
Your
Don't tell her
chroma keyed.
series or secrets. Well, this
Like people don't know you're green screened.
I know, but like this section is more blue green, but it's still getting it all. It's actually kind of interesting. It
'cause
reads more blue.
I have it with a fairly large range of colors that it can do because the lighting in here is very uneven.
Telling more of our trade secrets, you silly man.
Anybody who's watched our live content can tell that our light is very uneven. But I think we're going to wrap it there unless you have anything you want to talk about.
You're a panda. You can go anywhere and you can read.
Yes. Reading Rainbow. You can do anything. Take a look. It's in a book. Reading Rainbow. He should have been the host of Jeopardy. Still salty for that. Rip
That wasn't
LeVar
cute.
Burton's Jeopardy career. But listen, I used to watch Reading Rainbow when I was a kid.
Me too.
And
I don't remember much.
you can do anything in the pages of a book.
That's true.
You can like write in it. You could like roll it up to, like smoke it. You can like tear it up into confetti.
That's some book hatred right there. I don't like that. These are my babies.
Those are all things.
My babies.
Those are all things you can do with a book. And it just starts with reading. Let your imagination be your guide. And we appreciate all of you that joined us here today on our Talk About Books.
And other stuff too.
Yeah, but mostly books.
But mostly books.
And the books that we're going to be trying to get to, maybe I'll do one at some point with my long list of Audible books that I haven't started.
Oh,
I have like hundreds of books on Audible that I have not started.
Oh my God, you're worse than me.
Yeah, it's really bad. I think I have like 1,200 books or something in my Audible library. Yeah, it's a lot.
That's worse than me, guys.
But I've been doing Audible for over a decade now. And
I didn't even know it's been around that long.
Yeah, and I've had multiple accounts. When they do the trials and stuff, I'll just make the accounts and they'll be like, hey, stay on for 99 cents. It's like, okay, cool. I'll stay on with 4 accounts for 99 cents. So for 3 months.
Telling your trade secrets, Jeremy.
Yeah. Listen, they offer it to me. It's legal. But we're hoping to keep the streaming coming fairly regularly. We're hoping to get back to our podcast content very soon. Now that my work schedule has settled in and I'm not insanely tired all the time anymore.
That's a lie. He's insanely tired all the time.
Insanely tired all the time, but not like ready to jump out the window insanely tired.
That's not nice.
But we thank you all. Subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, like the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, any of the VODs or just the stream, you can still like it, I'm pretty sure. I'm sure you can click on it and like it. Comment down below. Let us know things you might want to hear us talk about, or if you want to see us play more games, or you want to see us do anything. Like you want to see us play Magic, you want to see us play video games, you want to see us just have discussions. Just let us know. And hop into the chat and participate. We appreciate Miguel, Seth Leopard. You guys participated a lot in the chat. We really appreciate that.
Yeah. We like when you hang out with us.
Yes. And we will catch you all in the next stream.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.
You stole my thunder.
I have to steal your thunder. And then I awkwardly hunt for the ending now thing.
You're the Rick Riordan's lightning thief now. It's official. think that was actually pretty good.
Baldur's Gate Duo Evil playthrough. I'll do that. Thank you for the affirmation that you thought our stream was good, Elaine, on the live mic. But
Oh,
yes, Baldur's Gate
how could you not tell me you had
Duo Evil playthrough. Definitely. I want to get Elaine to play Baldur's Gate. I've only played cooperative with Lakota, and that was fun. We were doing some evil stuff, but it is definitely fun.
Because you're a very questionable party kind of guy.
Yes. Murder Hobo. Yeah. Okay, now bye, everyone.